So I can get away with.
Good. Okay. Let me just wait till Terry takes her seat and we'll start, Ben. Good, Miss Terry? Okay. I'd like to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We do have a revised agenda in front of us this evening because we will not be convening into closed session. Members present this evening are Del Orco, Dillon, Gearbaugh, Hulsh, Harmount, Mayor Pro Tem Rice, and Mr. Marl, along with city staff members, City Manager Swallow, Clerk Royal, DPS Director McNeil, and Community Development Director Atkin. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments.
Approved as submitted.
Moved by Gearbaugh to approve as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. There are no absences, so we'll proceed to the first of two public comment periods. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time to make comment or question, Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Those wishing to speak are requested, but of course not required to state their name and address for the record. Please note that City Council will not answer questions during this initial public comment period. Are there any citizen comments on agenda items or any other topics of interest this evening? Please, Ms. Shea. And make sure that the green light is illuminated at the base of that microphone, and you're welcome to adjust the podium to your height.
Perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Lisa Shea. Address is 3641 Foxden Court, Saline, Michigan. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would like to briefly acknowledge the work of the Recreation Center implementation team that we discussed at the last council meeting. Over the past several months, the team invested significant time researching best practices, engaging the community, evaluating priorities, and developing recommendations intended to serve as a roadmap for the Recreation Center's future. As the city moves forward tonight, I encourage council to extend the term of this team and to continue to utilize the RCIT as an advisory resource. The team's work can help support thoughtful governance, provide continuity as projects are prioritized and implemented, and ensure decisions remain aligned with the long-term vision for the rec center and the well-being of our community. I thank you for your continued leadership and for the opportunity to contribute to this important work. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Chairperson Shea. And hang tight because we'll get to that issue in just a moment. There might be questions and additional comments that you can make for the betterment of council and for the community at large. Are there any additional citizen comments this evening? Let me defer to the city clerk. Were there any written comments provided in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read at this time? No, sir. Easy enough. Then we will transition to the one and only presentation, which is my charter-sanctioned State of the City address. And my apologies, there were copies disseminated earlier this evening, but they have a few grammatical and spelling errors, so we will get you a clean copy. We'll email one out later this week. Good evening, my friends. City Council, City Manager Swallow, Clerk Royal, distinguished guests, my fellow citizens. It is an honor to provide the citizens of Saline with a mid-year address, albeit a much more abbreviated one than I provided on July the 5th, 2026. I know I mentioned this previously, but the City of Saline has always established goals and objectives, frequently with the input and suggestions from residents and the business owners we represent. However, the strategic planning process that the City initiated in February 2023 is by far the most thorough, thoughtful, and comprehensive in our city's history. The process to develop our current strategic framework included all City Council members, department heads, and the City Manager, along with an excellent external consultant. The final product was the combination of at least half a dozen meetings and/or retreats. As I've shared previously, I'm happy to affirm the 8 goal areas outlined in our strategic plan. Number 1 is effective asset management. 2, foster open communication and standards for proactive community outreach. 3, financial stewardship. 4, organizational effectiveness. 5, supporting a viable community. 6, purposeful planning and smart growth. 7, employ a skilled workforce. And 8, prioritize community health, wellness, and safety. I strongly encourage our residents to review the city's approved strategic framework. In addition to the outlined goal areas, we have also established specific tasks with timelines while assigning individuals or groups to lead the enumerated projects or initiatives. City Council and department heads revisited these issues via a retreat on June the 22nd, and I'm hopeful that we can regroup again in August or September to ensure that we are developing forward momentum on these key target areas. A well-integrated strategic plan will serve as our organization's compass and will ensure that we are prioritizing prioritizing the issues that matter most to the residents we represent. Excuse me. In the meantime, please rest assured that city leadership will continue to focus on the issues that have the most significant and tangible impact on our citizens' quality of life. These are also the key issues I emphasized when I began my tenure as mayor in January of 2013. They include strong financial stewardship, economic development, support for public safety, critical investment in our municipal infrastructure, and openness and transparency in city government. Now, just a few items this evening. This construction season, our city will complete road work on Beach Court and portions of Industrial Drive while initiating design work for Woodland Drive and ADA upgrades for the Northview subdivision. Also, with our new DPS director, Brandon McNeil, on board, and with funds designated in our current budget, I'm confident that we can reconstitute our comprehensive sidewalk program in the next 12 months. As mentioned in the past, a full list of infrastructure projects is available online with corresponding schedules. We encourage our residents to review the materials on the engineering page of our city's website. Our $75 million plus rehabilitation of our wastewater treatment plant, WWTP, is essentially on schedule with final completion expected during the construction season of 2026, with a few minor punch list items to be completed in early 2027. City Council will revisit the Mill Pond Dam restoration or removal issue via discussion either later this evening or in the future, and will likely address the mill race issue at our subsequent council meeting on July the 20th. Transitioning to economic development, the city, with support from our partners at Saline Main Street, has established a carefully vetted downtown social district, one that we will hopefully expand and enlarge in the coming weeks. We are also very close to considering a development agreement for a new downtown gathering space directly behind Carrigan Cafe, one which will undoubtedly improve the vitality of our city's downtown. In the coming months, we will also share and promote our annual economic development video. Additionally, our former community recruitment and retention team, which has been rebranded Saline Connected, is working diligently on promotional materials and a new Doing Business in Saline webpage. As has been widely reported, in February 2026, the city closed on the iconic Davenport Curtis property in order to both preserve and activate this timeless historic asset. A working group has been established and has been meeting in earnest. This summer, members of the working group will be visiting comparable facilities in our state and region to benchmark their successes. The group is also partnering to host Jazz in the Park with the Saline Arts and Culture Committee on Saturday, and will be hosting a family-friendly barbecue and old-fashioned ice cream social on Labor Day, September the 7th. Finally, under the leadership of our Community Development Director, Chris Adkin, the City Planning Commission is considering streamlined processes for site plan reviews and simplification of our municipal sign ordinance. The primary goal here is to improve our internal processes and better meet the needs of the residents and business owners. On to public safety, our police department has one vacancy in road patrol. Ergo, our department's leadership is looking for a competent, qualified, community-oriented individual to serve in this full-time position. If you're interested, please contact Police Chief Radzik or Deputy Chief Andy Hartwig. Over the course of the past year, the Saline Fire Department staff, the Saline Fire Board, representing Lodi Township, Saline Township, York Charter Township, and the City of Saline, have made significant progress with the formation of a new fire authority. This is both timely and important work. I know additional details and information are forthcoming, particularly regarding the possibility of a ballot question, which will likely appear on the November 2026 general election ballot. Earlier this spring, City Council adopted a very sensible and pragmatic budget, one that invests in the areas our residents care most about. The current budget actually reduces the municipal tax burden due to a Headley rollback and a cut in the city's refuge millage. It also creates two new important positions, a citywide economic development director and a facilities manager. Further, per our custom, we will work to leverage additional county, state, and federal revenue sources while also implementing recommendations to improve the financial viability of our city-owned rec center. The rec center is a valuable, quality of life enriching service, which can undoubtedly be made better in the years ahead. Regarding the rec center, as many are aware, we have received financial pledges and commitments in excess of $12 million, which, if received and managed appropriately, will not only transform our existing facility, but also ensure its financial sustainability long-term. I'm hopeful that our rec center implementation team can be extended. I'm also hopeful that we can mirror the recent success of the completed Saline River Valley Trail and make more critical investments in parks and park improvements in the next 12 to 24 months. As I previously shared, it is also my hope that by the end of this calendar year, we will successfully launch a new community-wide wellness initiative focusing on substance abuse disorders, domestic violence prevention, mental health awareness, and access to healthcare amenities in the broader Saline area. As always, we encourage our residents and other community stakeholders to engage with us online and on social media. Please sign up for our DPW newsletter, HOA updates, and 411 text message initiative, and utilize our online reporting tool when deemed appropriate. Also, look for a rebranded and relaunched city website in the coming months, designed to make it easier for residents to find information about city services. Last, regarding events, I'm hosting my annual senior conference at the Saline Area Senior Center on August the 14th. All Saline area seniors are welcome to attend. Also, my next coffee hour will be co-hosted by our state representative, Morgan Foreman, and will begin at 8 a.m. on August the 21st. More information will be shared in the weeks ahead. Let me acknowledge the years of service and innumerable contributions made by my City Council colleagues, Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Rice, members Jim Delorco, Janet Dillon, Dean Gearbaugh, Tremaine Helsch, and Jen Harmon. Also, sincerest thanks to our very dedicated staff. They care deeply for our community and provide exceptional service to our residents on a daily basis. On behalf of City Council, we thank each of you. Our community would not be the exceptional city it is without your commitment and contributions. I've said it before, Saline is a very special place, and there's no doubt in my mind, I continue to believe that our best days are yet to come. Thank you, my friends. God bless you, and God bless Saline. We are going to transition now to the consent portion of our agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion. Before I ask for a motion, because I was getting caught up on emails right when this meeting started, I believe there were a few items removed from the consent agenda, Clerk Royal, and added to new business. Is that correct? Okay, very good. Are there any additional changes to the consent agenda, or is there a motion to approve as amended? To approve as amended, Councilmember Harmon?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gearbaugh. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We come to unfinished business, agenda item 26-122, Rec Center implementation. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the Rec Center implementation team report and to authorize city staff to begin implementation of the recommendation action, and further to extend the Rec Center implementation team authorization through December 31st, 2028.
Move to acknowledge and authorize.
Did you want, I heard Dylan first. Do you want to simply acknowledge?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go with that motion. Mayor Pro Tem Rice, would you be the second?
Sure.
Okay. City Manager Swallow, would you like to begin? And then I'm happy to defer to Councilmember Hulsh, who is the council liaison to this body.
Thank you, Mayor Council. As was presented by Ms. Shea earlier this evening, the Recreation Center implementation team provided their report and recommendations to City Council at our last meeting. It's a very thorough report and obviously includes a number of recommendations that were pulled also from the earlier task force. So with that, it is being presented this evening for your acknowledgement, and also just to, again, give staff the authority to move forward with some of the recommendations that were included in the report. Also, per the request to extend the implementation team, there are a number of items that still working on, including obviously looking at the pledges, financial support that have been made to the rec center and how those would be best utilized, providing that community input, as well as continue on some of those recommendations and push those forward to make sure that we implement those key things that would hopefully make the recreation center viable for many years to come.
Thank you, City Manager Swallow. Councilmember Hulsh, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just wanted to voice my support for the recommendations. I think that what's unique about this particular implementation team and a lot of what we hope to achieve should it be extended is really being an advisory and oversight body for the center. I think that, obviously there are a number of challenges that we've identified, but also a number of opportunities that I think the implementation team has to not only change the financial trajectory of the center, but also the operational excellence of that center. So I emphatically support the extension of the team.
Very good. And I'll note for the record, I did have conversations with Councilmember Halsh and then subsequently with the chairperson, Lisa Shea. There are a few additional items that will need to come back in probably the next 30, 60 days vis-a-vis the rec center implementation team. And Tremaine, Lisa, if I'm missing anything here, please speak up. But there seems to be some consensus to add some members, particularly members representing the business community. Per Councilmember Halsh's statements just now, I think there will be some slight revisions to the mission, focusing a little bit more on being an advisory panel and providing some oversight to staff regarding projects, initiatives, and the allocation of funds that are, I believe, forthcoming. And then, per comments made at our last meeting by Councilmember Dillon and others, there was a clear desire to establish some very specific finite timelines. And I think that we can do that. Lisa and I, Ms. Shea and I spoke earlier today, and the ones we thought of specifically is we should be able, within the next 30 to 60 days, establish a time frame as to when we would know if we're going to be able to pursue relationships with the county, YMCA, et cetera. So if this is approved tonight, it's not the only action that will be taken. There will be some additional motions that will be forthcoming either in August or in early September. Chairperson Shea, anything I missed or anything you'd like to add? Why don't I have you come to the podium if you wouldn't mind, Lisa, because we want to get this on the record. I want to make sure everybody can hear your statements and replies.
I think that what I would like to add is that serving as more of a governance advisory instead of implementation team only, we'd be able to help really line things up, put the roadmap together, and establish that timeline, and then also work with council on what you may need to help us move forward, so that we're kind of a go-between the staff at the rec center and council, so we can kind of push forward those efforts and really look at it from a different lens of not being so close to the data.
Very good. Why don't you hang tight there at the podium, because I'm assuming there might be some questions that are best addressed by you. Questions or comments from the dais? Councilmember Dillon? Yeah.
Thank you. The reason I moved to acknowledge is just to have a better understanding of what exactly implementations of the recommended actions entails. Because within the presentation that was provided to the public in this, it does not list that out. And so I think everyone being on the same page to understand what it is. I myself am not even sure. I know that there was a scoring sheet, but that's not included, and I'm not sure. So I do like the idea of the implementation committee continuing on. I think that there's a lot of value in that group. I just want to understand what we're talking about. There's still a couple other pieces that we still are missing information on. To the city manager, at one point we had conversations asking if with that $2.7 million, if the city, did we verify whether the city could be reimbursed for the $1 million that we spent for the Dectron unit? Did we get actual written verification of whether that was a?
So just to outline, I guess, the first part of your question in terms of, what does this report recommend initially? It's prioritizing capital projects, which includes the $2.7 million and how that would be spent. Pursue older persons millage funding, strengthen partnerships, mentioned obviously with county and YMCA already, address immediate facility needs, again, allocating those funds that have been pledged by not only the grant, but also from the private donations, and continuing the community engagement. So there's some of those are broader topics, but we can dive in deeper in detail with those.
Right.
With that, I have been in contact with HUD trying to get details on exactly when the funding will become available and when we'll have our grant administrator assigned to us so we can answer some of those questions relative to the Dectron. So I've actually worked through Senator Slotkin's office. They put in a formal request to the agency to try and get some of those more of those details and information.
And if I may, we're not the only municipality struggling with identifying a point of contact and getting information about the direct appropriations secured by Congresswoman Dingell. I know that you and I have also had conversations with Supervisor Riley in Pittsfield Township, who is also trying to get answers and would like funds to be forthcoming. So it's an unfortunate challenge, but one that's being experienced by multiple municipalities. Sorry to interrupt.
No, so I'm just trying to understand, and then we also have the other pledge of funds. And I guess trying to understand how things are being prioritized. So you have 2.7. Well, what if it's only 1.7 because the city takes back $1 million? And then this 10 million, what is that going to look like? That's a pledge. And that's something, that's a whole different animal that this body has not even had any information about other than a public notice. And so kind of understanding how we're prioritizing with that. And what areas is it, are we going to only focus on the pool area? Is that going to be the focus? So I guess I'd like a little bit more detail to understand what it is that you're looking to do.
And that was one of the key things that the implementation team did work on, is prioritizing those projects with the focus on, obviously, improving and reducing costs, improving the facility appearance, attracting new membership as well, because that's a key factor going forward. So there's a whole list of criteria that they utilize, and I don't have any reason why we couldn't share that with council and how those projects were prioritized and the criteria that were used to do that.
Okay, so essentially we are not implementing the spending of any of these dollars because we don't actually have these dollars in hand, correct?
Correct.
So what you're suggesting is this implementation team will now just formalize what their plan is, correct?
Well, there was initial scoring, and so there is a prioritized list of projects, which we'll share with council, but obviously you.
I thought council had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you resend it though, just in case some people misplaced it or didn't see
It's
it?
not in here, so it looks in the presentation.
That can be resent to council in the next 24 hours, that'd be great.
You will have to approve that final list as well as approve the projects as they come forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
And if I may, real quick, because I was able, I appreciate the grace that was extended to me at the last meeting. I was able to watch the balance of the meeting subsequent to my departure, and I heard the questions and concerns vis-a-vis the $10 million pledge, which of course, again, at this point, it's just a pledge. The major request or concern has been alleviated, which both Councilmember Hulsh and Ms. Shea can speak to, which is we will definitely include multiple people in future conversations with those corporate entities. And you should have gotten a calendar invite about a meeting Wednesday, and Councilmember Hulsh, you should have as well. So we will hopefully within the next, I would hope 60 to 90 days have some details about those donations. And as I've stated privately and as I've stated publicly, I think there should be ultimately a legal agreement that City Council approves with the corporate entities reviewed by legal counsel, which would include some guardrails, including we're not offering anything in return for the donation. I personally have the opinion that a donation should be earmarked for Taft Park more broadly, not just the rec center. And third, that it would be wildly inappropriate and irresponsible to commit to spending all of that $10 million. A certain portion should be set aside and establish an endowment fund for the rec center to take care of future operational deficiencies and capital needs. Yeah. Any additional questions, Councilmember Dillon?
No, I'll stop there and let
Okay.
others.
Councilmember Gearbaugh.
For me to understand, how is the oversight going to be accomplished? I mean, I know we have a number of issues just with the city itself. Who will be hired to oversee the $2.7 million implementation, making sure the projects occur? Is going to be a project manager, or, because I assume these are going to be multiple different types of projects?
So I guess first, obviously, the implementation team make the recommendation for the projects, which will ultimately be approved by council. Then is our intent, I've worked with Ms. Lambert already on identifying a professional, probably a professional engineering or a consulting firm, to work with us on planning out those detailed projects and getting them ready to basically package them into bid packages, understanding sequencing, understanding how the best, most efficient way to complete them. And so that we'll be working with a professional consultant on that.
Because I know we had that same concern with the wastewater treatment plant and still continue to have that, even with the city and its own projects, of someone that can put that all together. So not sure whether that $2.7 million can be used to fund that need. And is that one of the things that we're going to clarify in terms of our ask to Dingle?
And, obviously preparing the specific documents for bidding is eligible expense under the $2.7 million, as well as obviously we'll be communicating with our project partners on the pledges. We've actually gotten an offer, and we're still pursuing how that would function. Obviously, Walbridge, major contractor, is a component of the pledge funds. They have design professionals on board, obviously project managers on board, and so maybe utilizing some of their services in kind to get us started.
That was also offered to us, engineering, architecting, and construction expertise.
And as long as we identify and how that's managed and maintained and properly accounted for, I'm great for that. I do like the idea of adding additional members to the board. Right now, there's only really 2 members from the city that are on there, actually. And so I'd like to see more representation from the city in terms, we're the ones that have the biggest part in the making sure that this thing is funded. So I'd like to see more balance in that way. So I agree. I'm not sure what the idea with business is, unless they're from a professional perspective of actual individuals that are in the business of either construction or whatever would be helpful, because I think we need expertise in those fields and not necessarily just people that would like and maybe have good intentions, but we need to have individuals that are qualified. I think we're running that same problem even with our Curtis Mansion approach. So
If I can address that, I think it was a combination of trying to find people who have a particular expertise that would be valuable, individual or individuals who could help us beef up and improve and market a corporate membership packages, and then third, individuals who would have either access to or know of additional revenue streams that could support operations or future capital needs at the rec center.
And then just again, clarity on when we're asking, when you spoke with the township supervisor from Pittsfield, and also, is the money not being released, or is it just a clarification of how we can spend the money?
It's not been released yet. So basically, the funding has to be released to the area or regional offices for HUD, and then at that point, we'll be
Given a contact point to develop the final grant agreement.
Essentially, the administration is moving at a glacial pace.
Well, and that's what I kind of figured. I just want to make sure that they aren't stopping the funding, because you never know one day to the next what they're going to do and what they're going to do.
Notification from the senator's office and the inquiry to stop the funds that have not been released yet to the regional offices.
Okay, great. And as long as we make sure the clarity that we are replacing the pool deck, not the community center floor, because I want to make sure that that clarification is expressed to the agency so that we do not end up getting into trouble down the road. So appreciate that.
Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I think a lot of the things that Mr. Gearbaugh just brought up are the exact reason why we need to continue this implementation team. I mean, the rug keeps getting pulled out from under us with federal funding, things like that. So the fact that this implementation team isn't just relying on that funding, you also have other avenues that you're exploring. And again, I'm going to reiterate what I said in the last meeting. Could not be more fortunate to have better experts on this team right now. We couldn't pay people who had more expertise, and you're doing it voluntarily. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I think now is the time to take advantage of this energy. And if we let this energy trickle by not keeping this momentum going, that's on us. So I'm fully in support of all of the things we've just discussed.
Very good. Any additional questions? Let me jump back to Councilmember Hollish, and then I'll come to Dylan before we vote to acknowledge receipt.
I think kind of speaking to the points that both my colleagues Dylan and Gerba raised, and I don't think we necessarily had a lot of time to go into the specifics during this stretch of work that the implementation team has done. But I think we are very much looking into the measurability of this process, and I think that scoring rubric was a part of it. One of the things that as a team that we were able to identify, and one of the things that we want to be able to come back to council with, is specific metrics that, are keeping us honest, but also keeping the projects and the people that we hire out, the people that ultimately are going to be doing the work, so to speak, is having that measurability. Because I think part of the reason why some of our projects can get off track is because we don't have benchmarks. We don't have ways of measuring. We don't use a lot of leading indicators to kind of let us know beforehand that these things may be off track, or there may be differences that we need to go about in implementing. So I think that is one of the things that the implementation team is excited to look at, is how can we bring a performance layer to all of this, so that way when we do come back, we can say that, here are all the ways that and here are all the benchmarks that we've set when we go for the YMCA partnership or a county partnership, or even around who are we contracting, who do we need to get these projects done. So I do want to stress that that is an element of this that I don't think we had the chance to include in the presentation, but it is very much, I think, central to the work that we hope to continue doing with the team.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. The one thing that I would ask is that I'd like to, as we approve this tonight, establish the next date on which we will have a presentation so that there is a firm understanding of what that expectation is. Because what I'd like to do is start being able to cut things off of the list and say, okay, we have explored this, because there are certain things that just linger. The YMCA, the county, there's things like that it's an up or down at this point. And we either have to say, we're not making any traction, so we have to just leave it at the curb and move on to the next thing. And so that's what I'd like to see happen at that next meeting, is sort of refine it a bit.
So I would be amenable to Lisa Tremaine, maybe a follow-up report in about 90 days. But I think sometime between now and that 90 days, we can provide a more comprehensive schedule of updates. And after having a few subsequent meetings, I think we can establish when do we think we can have an answer about YMCA? When do we think we have an answer about the county? I'm not sure we would be able to share that in 90 days, but I think we could give at least some sort of update in 3 months' time.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've got the experts on the team too. So I think that, and the other thing that I want to stress, probably more than anything else, is I don't want anything to be a surprise. I'm very transparent on everything. So if there's a report that you need, or there's something that you need, or there's just like, we're going to get that for you. I'm very transparent on those things, and I think that's part of the governance and the advisory portion of it, to be very transparent so that you do get the facts and you do get the reports so that you're able to make the decisions that you need to make.
So 90 days would be the first council meeting in October. What's the date for that, Clerk Royal?
October 5th.
And as far as you know, are there a litany of presentations on that agenda or any holds?
There's nothing at this point.
Okay, so October 5th. I would assume that would be included as an amendment in the subsequent motion. Okay. Anything else? All right, there's a motion on the floor moved by Dillon, seconded by Rice, to acknowledge. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Is there a motion to authorize, not authorize, or is there amended language that a council member would like to offer from the floor?
Move to authorize city staff to begin implementation of the recommended actions and to further extend the Recreation Center implementation team authorization through December 2028, as well as requesting a 90-day update on no later than October 5th, 2025.
Or quarterly.
We want to do 2025 because we're.
Oh, we're in 2026.
I would just start with a 3-month update, and then by that point we will have a more comprehensive schedule. So and to require the implementation team to submit a formal report to an update to City Council no later than October 5th, 2026.
That is much better wording than what I just mumbled out.
Are you clear with that, Clerk Royal? Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Hulsh. Is there any additional discussion? All right, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Ms. Shea, thank you very much. And if I may be so bold, because Director Lambert is out for this week, could I burden you to maybe send a message to the group and see if we can get a subsequent meeting scheduled? Probably is too tight of a turnaround to do it next week, but I think we could probably aim for the week of the 27th.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate your leadership and time this evening. We're going to move on to new business item 26-123, GIS General Service Proposal. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the GIS proposal for FY27 in the amount of $100,000.
Move to acknowledge.
Yeah, I'll go with Rice first. You started talking first.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Okay, it's been moved by Rice to acknowledge and to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Harmount. Director McNeil, are you taking the lead on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, moving forward from the June 22nd presentation that we did, we provided to the council on different things that we utilize GIS for. This is to seek official approval of the proposal of $100,000 to have OHM continue those service for us. A couple of the key highlights that we're anticipating to work on this fiscal year would be a Velp exercising app, a MISDIG app. We're going to be looking into providing an app where it overlays all the different assets on a given local street, and it provides an overall score for that street that utilizes all the assets in that score, so that that'll help us determine particular streets that need the most work, so we can easily pick them out and get design engineering services done to provide that information to council and give scopes of of how much it's going to cost to do that type of work. Additionally, this helps tremendously for field work. So a lot of these apps are going to be utilized and transitioned to the field work that we do. Some already are, some just need a little tweaks, or some need to be fully developed. With that, also, we do have representatives from OHM here. Paul McCord is with us today. If you'd like to come up, if you have any more questions, either I or Paul would be able to answer those.
Paul, we welcome you to the podium, and if there's anything you'd like to say before we open it up for questions from the dais, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you. I don't know if there's a whole lot more I have to say. I hope that we can continue working. I think we've really done some great work within the last 5 years. As Brandon and Tesha have mentioned, you know, where we were 5 years ago, now we've built in so much efficiency into the work efforts that are happening across Saline, from hydrant winterization work, or you know, knowing where roads need work, or where you know, ongoing inspections of manholes are taking place. Seeing all this visually, I think, offers so much efficiency. So I look forward to continuing to work.
Very good. Why don't you hang tight there at the podium in the event that there are questions that are best addressed by you. City Manager Swallow, anything you'd like to add?
Just add that in addition to obviously all the apps that Brandon had mentioned earlier, the Director McNeil, excuse me, there's now a public facing on our website where the public can actually see some of the GIS applications in real life that highlight some of our capital improvement plans for the next 5 to 6 years. So it really is becoming not only a tool for internal staff, but also something that city residents can access and you learn more about what's happening with capital projects as well as our utility systems.
Very good. Questions from the dais? Councilmember Dillon and then Councilmember Halsh.
Thank you. The only question I had, and why I was moving to just acknowledge rather than approve at the same time, was that one of the things that we spoke about at the recent asset management meeting was having a better understanding of what percentage of information is in GIS, so that we can have an understanding of how we're budgeting our money and understanding that moving forward. So that would be, for me, one of the key elements that I would like to see is understanding, okay, for a $100,000 investment, it's gonna move the needle 1% or 7%, and what is the focus of how much of each of the categories have been inserted into GIS, so that we can have a better understanding of what that map actually looks like and where we're going to go with it, because we're on the forever ever plan. We understand that there's going to always be more to input, but just understanding when that data is going to be ripe enough to really be a decision matrix for us.
So I think we're slowly heading that way. I feel like most of the assets that we need information for is our storm and our sewer infrastructure. Those are going to take time. Right now, we're budgeting $250,000 apiece, $250,000 apiece for storm, $250,000 for sewer. When it comes to CCTV, and only I think $100,000 is that portion that we're doing. So that's unfortunately, it's progress, but it's an insignificant amount when it comes to getting the totality of the CCTV footage that we actually need in order to get those ratings and put it into the actual GIS app so we can visually show that information. Based off of some small information I got, I would say that we're 10% done with collecting the CCTV footage that we need in order to truly show what those two key aspects look like in the infrastructure underground. In order for us to consider what roads to do full reconstruction on. However, the other assets I feel like are pretty much there. It's just getting the CCTV and the sewer footage caught up. So next year, I'm looking to bring a proposal to the board in the budget to increase the funds, at least for the sewer portion, so we can get a little bit more CCTV footage done in the key areas. In the inner city areas where the older roads are, that we have more potholes that really need to be focused on, so that we have a full picture of what we're looking at, whether it's we only need to do one underground utility and line the other one with the full reconstruction, or So the more information we can get gathering CCTV information, the better off we're going to be. And so really right now, I think we're fine tuning the GIS apps that we currently have. We're developing other ones that are going to continue to help navigating council and ourselves on proposing projects. So right now, a lot of the good groundwork has been done by OHM and Tesha's perseverance and direction with the GIS.
I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that as we move forward into budgets or, happen to find a windfall of money, whether it's, whether we can get grants or something else, just ensuring that we're putting adequate dollars towards it, because it does seem like we put a lot. I mean, we write a lot of checks to OHM, but understanding that we're not really moving the needle and that we are going to really need to make a bigger investment in order to really make that traction that you're saying. So I think that's going to be really key element in decision making when it's time for budgeting.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Councilmember Hulsh?
Actually, very similar to Councilmember Dillon's kind of request. I would love to see, if possible, any type of maybe semi-annual reporting or any insight that we can have, like an annual report that looks at, this is how much money GIS has saved. This is the preventative maintenance. This is, or basically like us having this system has, as Councilor Dillon put it, moved the needle. And so I'm not sure, as I was looking over kind of the agreement and hearing more of our DPW director's explanation, I think that's an element that I would love to see, just because I love data. So yeah, that's really all I had to add to it.
Very good. Let me go Gearbaugh and then Rice. And I don't know if, Harmont, did you have your hand up as well?
I did.
Okay, we'll just go right down. I'll work my way from right to left.
I guess for me, and we have invested in this, and I know our advisors that have been on the asset management have been super supportive of gathering data and making sure we put it into a tool in which we can then utilize it for this. Can you maybe briefly explain exactly what you are doing? My assumption is that you're introducing the tool, developed it. Are you the ones gathering the data? And then, because I read that you're training our staff to gather data, can you just kind of give us from start to finish what you do?
Sure, yeah. The data collection, yes, we are training your staff to collect data. There have been other data collection campaigns, thinking to, I believe, spring, summer 2023, where OHM had a team out there collecting information. So it has kind of varied. At this point, the goal is to have DPW staff do the collection. DPW staff has purchased a high-precision GPS unit that allows them to actually go out and do that data collection, but there is always ongoing training. We discover that, there's turnover everywhere, so we need to get out there, do training of the staff so that they're collecting the best information possible. It's an expensive unit, so we would hate for it to not collect sub-centimeter accuracy. So from the data collection side, it is primarily the focus that Saline staff would be doing that. Once that data is collected, then as Brandon was saying, it is kind of a host of what are the most helpful applications that can be built. And we have built a lot, but as you can imagine, there are things that come up constantly where it's like, oh, it'd be really nice to have a map for that. One being the valve exercising map that Brandon mentioned. We don't have a fine-tuned valve exercising map out there right now where the DPW staff can go out, turn a valve, know that that valve was turned, move to the next one, turn that valve, record some information, which is much more useful than marking it on a map or like a PDF that like highlight it says, okay, I completed it. That might get lost. So the data collection obviously is an important component, but then it is kind of ticking off that wish list of what will make Brandon's job the most doable and what can make him the most efficient. So there's that component. Then there are these public apps that Dan mentioned where, we're helping to engage with the public by, the lead service line is a great example. That data was initially collected internally, nobody saw it. We then turned it into almost a public service piece where the public can now see what was being done by the Saline staff. So, yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a summary of where
Which
we
is
are.
what I kind of was helping. For me, as understanding it, we put a lot, as we've invested a lot. Have we invested in all the aspects or areas that we should currently? I mean, we're sewer, water, streets. I don't know if we've done next inventory for like trees or other city assets. I know we went to one aspect with our wastewater treatment plant and a total another approach for a vertical assessment of those. I guess what I'm kind of looking at is, from your perspective, have we brought everything in that we need to?
Well, I think there's more assets out there, trees being one that we don't have we do have some information on trees, but we don't have a nice application that will allow for recording and documenting and inventorying that certain aspects like pruning were done. And okay, now that pruning's been done, maybe it gets to the end of its life and it needs to be stumped and then grinded. So we've developed that for some other communities. We have not developed that for Saline. I can see that being useful. Inventorying of signs has not been inventoried. From the underground infrastructure perspective, we have developed a lot. And I think a lot of what's out there is very useful. As Brandon has mentioned, a good amount needs to be fine-tuned. So while an app may exist, we want to make sure it's in a usable form, a user-friendly form for our DPW staff. So I guess from that perspective, we do have a lot developed for underground infrastructure, but there's more we could be doing in order to make it useful for, or the most useful for the DPW staff.
And if you were to say for us to invest, is it in gathering data? Because as we know, and as our former engineer spoke, only 10% of our sewer was covered. So whereas we look to balance where we're investing our money, do we have our tools in place now, and really the money needs to be invested in gathering the data for which those tools would then become beneficial?
Well, I guess from my understanding, the gathering of the data is being handled on a separate contract. Yeah. So the CCTV, those elements, that's not being handled within this GIS General Service contract. Where GIS comes into that is once that information is collected, we take the videos, take the scoring, all that data, and put it into, we're using SharePoint. So we'll put it up on SharePoint and then work those defect scores into the data so that when Brandon or somebody else from DPW is wondering, well, what is this pipe rated here on Main, or on, Ann Arbor? What is this pipe rated? They can click, tap on it and see that, oh, it has a score of a 4. And I can pull the video from SharePoint and see exactly what was televised and where the defects were. Without GIS working that data into the online environments, SharePoint, and into the ArcGIS online environment, the information gets a bit more scattered, but having it right there in a clickable format where anybody, staff member, can click on it and see what the defect was, I think that's a lot of value added by GIS there. From the perspective of what's remaining, is it percentage-wise data or is it percentage-wise applications? From our perspective, if we are training Saline DPW staff to be out there collecting the information, we would be handling more of that app development, and we would be training up DPW staff to go out there and collect that data. So it would be a bit more on app development, a bit less on the actual going out and GPSing assets.
Okay. And then just lastly, as you said, we have turnover and that change and have to retrain and all that. Are we better off outsourcing for that activity than to be training in-house?
That's a great question. I think when it's nice to invest in, obviously, in your own people. I like us training up the DPW staff personally and having them go out there and collect that data, because it is useful for Brandon to have a champion or a couple champions on his staff who know the GPS unit inside and out, can train up the staff, take them out there and record points. there's merits to both. We have a very capable staff that could go out there and collect that information, as we did in spring and summer of 2023. We got through a lot of assets during that period. But yeah, I think, there's merits to both.
I think it kind of depends on what asset it is. If we're looking at redoing the whole tree inventory, that's very time consuming. That would probably make sense to contract out. Other assets would make more sense to do in-house, like our curb box locations for our shutoffs. Those are being done in-house currently with the intern, Rachel, that we have. So it's very, I think, case by case. And again, a lot of it, a lot of the platforms are there. It's just us providing the extra data. Just to expand on the sewer video one, on our overall utility overview map. Now we can click on the sewer, a stretch of sewer. Click on it. Like you said, it does provide the NASCO score. But instead of now even without even searching all over SharePoint for a particular video for a line segment, it's already attached to that segment. So we just scroll down. Here's the paperwork related to it that has an overview of what we're going to see on the video already pre-typed out for us. Then we can look at the video. So all that information is integrated. Not only do you use it on that overview map, but then they'll take that data for the NASCO score and they're going to correlate that into the other GIS app where it goes into an overall score to grade that specific street. One set of data points can help on multiple apps.
Right, and we understand that. For me, I guess, and to wrap my thing up, is to understand what projects we have left and to identify those specific areas and who should be doing them, our staff, someone outside, or if they're a combination of it, because I think we all know that this is the part that we need to move forward because we have over $160 million of projects that need to be accomplished, and the major streets are not happening that need to be happening without the proper data. So whatever we can do to move this forward.
Yeah, the thing that I looked at with Dan and DPW staff, just to expand on trying to get more CCTV footage done, is bringing that in-house. We can save a substantial amount of money by doing that work in-house, the actual TVing of it, and either utilizing OHM for their sewer AI technology where they actually rates the pipe, or bringing that AI software in-house and uploading the videos to it and conducting all that ourselves, and then having OHM or a different firm do a quick overview of what sewer AI came up, spot check some things. That will save a significant amount of money and allow us to get more CCTV footage done yearly.
As long as we don't lose out on other opportunity ventures. That's my biggest concern, is what are we doing in-house that could be done better by someone else and not necessarily fall farther behind in what we're doing. So thank you.
Councilmember Rice.
I think this is one of those things that I think former city engineer Humphreys and others have said, but they've said it maybe a little too nicely. The elephant in the room is that we should have done this 40 years ago. We should have started this project, right? Like, we should have been, from the day GIS was invented, entering things into a system. And instead, we're playing catch up 5 years into the 2020s. So I think there is a great need for more investment in this. I think, $100,000 is like the bare minimum, right? To be honest. I would encourage this body to continue to push to the state and federal level for money, especially stormwater money, things like that. Really, really hammer down on trying to get money for that so that we can invest in projects like this to make things more efficient, having data in a system like this helps our case for the need for those federal dollars and those state dollars. So, the investments need to be made. I'm always fully in support, and I guess my question is always, where can we get more money to dump into this and to, like my colleagues were saying, like, outsource more of this so that DPW can really focus on the crux of like the issues in the city, and others can do the data collection, data input, and making the things easy to access. So I'm always all for this project. I congratulate everyone, the previous DPW directors as well, in getting this, moving forward as fast as possible. But I still shake my head at the fact that it's 2026 and we're only just this far, and that is a testament to to councils and directors of the past, by no means a testament to the city staff of the last 5 to 7 years. I think everyone's done a great job. So I fully support that. I do have one question though, because I don't see it anywhere in here, and I just want to say it for the public's benefit, but who is QA/QCing this information? You say you have some AI, which means we need to have some QA/QC. So
the sewer AI that Brandon's speaking about, that's separate from what we're doing. The QA/QC of our apps, our data collection is all being handled by OHM staff. Everything that we build is getting QA/QC'd. All data collection before it's pumped into the main data set, it gets QA/QC'd. Once we verify that the attributes are correct, that the geometry is correct, then we push it into the main data set. So OHM is QA/QCing the apps.
So we can remain confident when we take this data and we implement it into other projects, other engineering specs, things like that. The city is not responsible for any of that. You have already guaranteed that the data is good and the folks can use it.
Yes, that's what we're doing, yes.
Perfect. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Harmon?
I just want to kind of tag on to that you can't make data-driven decisions without data. So really, support these efforts. And I also want to kind of tag on to what Councilperson Hulsh and Councilperson Dillon said as far as maybe having a little bit more reporting out on some of the cost-benefit savings, like related to regulatory benefits and, like compliance wins and ways that we've this data has benefited us and saved us money. Like I think as we get more and more down the road, I think we need to have a little bit more tie back to that benefit.
Absolutely, sure, yeah.
Just to speak briefly on that, I think one of the huge benefits of the data collection that we've had is the engineering modeling stuff that comes from it. So all the data that we have, when engineers need to use it to do modeling for different projects, for our water asset management plan, sewer asset management plan, that's partially where we're going to see the huge benefit in the return. They're not going out there and collecting this data every single time we have to update something. Most of it's already in the system, and it's been collected at one point, so most of it can be reused again. Some key things you might have to go out and retest for, like maybe water pressure districts, you gotta go out and do pressure testing, but we have the data now, so you'll be able to use it for projects down the road. You won't have to keep gathering that information, so it saves a lot of money and time for engineers and staff now that we have it.
Anything else, Councilmember Harmon?
No.
Okay. Any additional questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate your very thorough responses. We have a motion on the floor. It was moved by Rice, seconded by, it's a motion to acknowledge and to approve. So was there any subsequent debate or discussion on the motion in addition to questions? I think we all see this as a very valuable investment, so I hope the vote is unanimous. It's been moved by Rice, seconded by Harmon to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. We move on to new business item 26-124, local road resurfacing for FY 27-28, Northview and Colony Estates. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the award design engineering service for FY 27-28, local road resurfacing design engineering in the amount not to exceed $174,500.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Rice to acknowledge and approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Del Orco. Ms. Humphries, are you taking the lead on this?
No.
Oh, it said city engineer, so.
Yeah, no problem, yeah. She helped put it together for me, so I really appreciate that. So as you said, this is seeking approval for the design engineering services for Northview and Colony Estates. This work would include the complete full depth milling or partial milling in accordance of the Transportation Asset Management Plan that the council adopted. In addition, this also includes a TAP grant, which was awarded to the city to pay for 22 crosswalks to be redone with a couple new pedestrian signal improvements. An additional thing included in this proposal is that the ADA ramps encroaches on 25 corner lots. So a very small section of property that owned to the residents will have to be purchased in order for this work to be completed. So part of this proposal, OHM will be coordinating those efforts and helping us get those that small pieces of property so we can do the ADA improvements. With me today is Marcus with OHM. He is going to be leading this project. Marcus, if you could come up, and if they have any questions, you could help answer those. So that's kind of the scope of the work. And if you have any additional questions, so we'd be happy to answer them.
Marcus, anything you'd like to add? Okay. And Ms. Humphries, sorry for putting you on the spot, but we do appreciate your work on this. If you're good, DPS Director, then we'll open up for questions from the dais. Are there questions for either our guests from OHM or the DPS Director? Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Could you just give us a little more explanation about these are temporary easements, not permanent easements?
That's correct. We don't expect any permanent takes to be necessary. However, the TAP grant program is federal funds. So along with that comes the federal highway process for compensating homeowners even for temporary grading permits. So basically, you can picture you have a square corner. The sidewalk that's out there now sweeps around that corner, in a curve, and it clips the corner of that private property. So in order to even remove the existing sidewalk that's there, you need a temporary grading permit. And again, the process for that is very well defined. OHM will be engaging with Commonwealth Associates as a sub-consultant who's an expert in this. The TAP grant, it's federal money, but it's administered through MDOT. And so they have experience with several projects doing this exact thing. There's a very prescribed order when you can talk to people, how you talk to them, how you document those conversations, just to make sure that there's no essentially you're not taking advantage of anyone, and there's no backroom deal type of thing. So it is a big amount of that, but in order to leverage the TAP grant to actually do to put the corners in properly to meet the current ADA standards, we need to touch their property temporarily, and that's the process required to do that.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand because in the memo that was attached a little bit different.
It's possible, I guess, as we go through that, the design, we could potentially find one that a permanent take might be desirable, but I don't expect that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that because we know they dedicated to us publicly when they put this subdivision in almost 30 years ago. So I want to make sure that why were we trying to take land that was already dedicated to us? So thank you.
Additional questions, Mayor Pro Tem Rice?
I know this is very early as you're just doing the engineering scope of this, but have we reached out, and this is probably for the city manager or your DPW director, to the Northview Neighborhood Homeowners Association and started a conversation about the fact that next summer there will be, and even this summer potentially with the ADA ramps, there will be lots of construction through their neighborhood?
Absolutely. We started to put out that public information, obviously, with presentations like this. So the GIS on the website now that people can take a look at that. But I think a direct outreach to the Homeowner Association as we get closer is appropriate. And we can host a meeting here to answer any questions they may have.
Actually, it's two HOAs. It would be Colony Estates and Northview.
Correct. Yeah, I forgot they're in there too. Yeah, I just think that'd be great because as these conversations start to happen with homeowners about easement rights, things like that, then the whole neighborhood starts talking, and it's just easier to have that initial conversation, just a super simple, this is the project over the next couple of years, and then maybe follow-ups with like more detailed engineering specs.
We have kind of sequencing as well as some the definite areas that we're going to impact. Then that would be appropriate time to host that meeting.
Wonderful, thank you.
Additional questions, Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. As we talk about sidewalks, the one thing I wanted to ask is, will there be sidewalk replacement happening during this project? There was some miscommunication last year when the other projects were being done about which sidewalk squares were being done, why they were being done, some were missed. So I guess I don't want a repeat of that. I think there were some great lessons learned from that, and I guess I just want to understand if we are going to be doing that. There were also some issues with grading of gutters and things like that. Like I said, there were some very good lessons learned from the other experiences. And so, and have we also, and I coordinated with the utility companies because they put in a beautiful ADA ramp last year and then DTE came in 3 days later and tore it out And then they put in a new one, which was put in incorrectly, so they had to tear that out again. And it's quite an inconvenience for those that need the actual ramps. And it's very difficult when you're taking out all of the ramps in a neighborhood at the same time and making sure that they're done and done correctly, and that there's a means for those people to traverse their neighborhood that need to.
With road projects, I think always a good thing to look at the sidewalks to see if there's an ability to bid out that at the same time, just because you could get an economy of scale with that contractor. But not necessarily guaranteed. We haven't made a final decision for this one to pursue that, but we are working on it right now and actually plan to come to you with kind of an updated sidewalk replacement program policy that for council to consider. This is an area we will be definitely looking at for next fiscal year. Obviously, this is 27-28, so we've got a little bit of time to figure that out. And then in terms of coordinating with the utilities, obviously they are all notified of these types of projects, but they also have their own schedule for gas line replacements, things like that we can't always predict. So, but they will definitely be notified.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Councilmember Harmar.
For the bridge on Monroe Street, would you have to close down the whole street by the bridge, or would it be, again, we don't have a contiguous sidewalk, so.
You're on two future agenda items.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on. Yeah, you just jumped ahead. It's no big deal. We'll hang tight with that question. We'll get it when you. We'll entertain that when we get to agenda item 26-126. No, you're okay. It happens. Any additional questions pertaining to this agenda item, Mr. Gearbaugh?
Just quick, it says potentially that there may be some other streets that we could add to this. Do we have any idea what those streets may be at this time?
Obviously, we take a look at the current PASER ratings and the Transportation Asset Management Plan, but obviously what we want to do is get a unit price so that if we have extra funding, we can immediately go with that contractor and not have to remobilize and rebid. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a couple stub streets that are completely failed that I think would be potentially for this if we're not having to do any kind of sewer work underneath them or whatever.
We've gotten some good pricing on, obviously with Beach Court in particular. So it's a potential that we may have some additional funds for additional street, additional footage of streets.
Great. It'd be helpful to understand what that could be in the future too, so thank you.
I would definitely prioritize that. I think that's a great opportunity.
Can I throw in a question for the applicable agenda item? Could we send out a Q&A to the public to say what they could expect during these type of repairs and activities?
So I think you're referencing more what Councilwoman Rice indicated, where we're going to notify the homeowners association, or is there additional outreach that you would?
I don't know, should we put something on the website concerning it?
There is some information already out there as to this coming up as a capital improvement project, but I think until we know a little bit more about the details of the project, it's probably a little premature. But
when we have specific confirms, I think a direct outreach to the HOA or property owners in those respective subdivisions would be the most appropriate. Definitely. Is there any discussion on the motion? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We have a motion on the floor moved by Rice, seconded by Del Orco to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item 26-125, Saline Main Street Agreement. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the Saline Main Street Agreement for fiscal year 27 as submitted.
Move to acknowledge.
Moved by Dillon, simply to acknowledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gearbaugh. City Manager Swallow, would you like to begin? And then I did notice in the audience we have the Executive Director of Saline Main Street, Mary Detling here. Mary, thank you for your attendance this evening. We'll probably call on you momentarily to provide some perspective as well.
Great. We are looking for a one-year renewal of our current arrangement with Saline Main Street. So with that, we support at a level of $35,000. $30,000 goes towards the economic and community development activities of Saline Main Street, and then $5,000 for the Bee Bloomin', which is, of course, the flower baskets downtown. So this is an ongoing partnership with Saline Main Street, covering, obviously the activities that they perform with working with individual small businesses, with coordinating activities and events downtown. And I think overall it's been a success with a great partnership with Saline Main Street, and looking to continue that.
Very good. Ms. Mary, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, other than I think that, well, I guess one thing I would like to ask is that for after this fiscal year, I would like to put together another working group to make sure that we're continuing to meet the needs of the downtown. So.
Very good. I think that's a wise idea, and maybe do that. Maybe initiate something after the first of the calendar year.
Yeah, that makes sense. As things change, it's been a few years,
Yeah.
so just to revisit.
Okay. Questions for either the city manager or Main Street director? I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Yeah, so I thought the request for an additional $500 this year for our 250th anniversary was one of those perfect examples of, this is our baseline, but please come to us if there's something else, a special project or something that you need. So I'm really glad that the city manager could approve that to you. So I hope that built your confidence in the fact that we will, help with additional things if needed. And I just want the community to know that, again, we support Saline Main Street, and this is just for that economic downtown work that you're doing, and then for special stuff, if the city has funds available, my perspective is, as a council member, always more than willing to provide a little extra something towards fun stuff.
Well, thank you for that. It was a very successful evening.
Good.
Councilmember Halsh, and then Harmont, did you have your hand up? Okay. Go ahead, Tremaine.
So one of the things is I was looking at, particularly the outcomes report, and it may be, I see that it was from 2023, but it says, Main Street will provide technical assistance to entrepreneurs and small businesses within the entire city jurisdiction. And so I guess what I would have a question of is how we just did the agreement with Ann Arbor Spark. We just renewed that. And that's supposed to be economic development. Sometimes I feel like economic development in this city is like this thing, and there's one group that wants to pull it this way or is pulling it this way, and then there's another group pulling in the opposite direction, and then it just kind of sits. And so understanding that relationship of what Ann Arbor Spark, and is Ann Arbor Spark providing support to the work that you're doing on Main Street, or are those just two separate relationships?
So for how I would describe it is ultimately, yes, two separate relationships. So in 2023, we had access to training that was free through the state of Michigan, through MEDC, and through other grant programs, actually, that some of their main streets had received, especially through Google and whatnot. And that was something that we wanted to bring to the entire city, so to businesses throughout the city. And we did so. We opened that up for that year. Now, we tend to focus more on the downtown specifically and supporting that and trying to bring in foot traffic to the downtown. We don't have the same opportunities currently to provide the training and the technical assistance throughout the city. But when we do have that, when it does arise, we have no problem in sharing that with the entire city. So, and businesses throughout.
If you do that, if you look on the Saline Main Street website, they have a lot of resources for small businesses. They have a connection, obviously, with the larger Michigan Main Street organization, so that to provide your resources to small businesses. So, and I know I've been present at some of your meetings where it's not necessarily downtown businesses attend. I know you also coordinate, the Business and Property Owners Association or group, and so, some of those are not necessarily in the immediate downtown as well. So there are a lot of resources that are shared citywide, but obviously the focus being.
I would add too that Councilmember Halsh raises a legitimate concern, and that was the primary genesis for more than 10 years ago, starting what was then the recruitment and retention team, which has now been transitioned into Saline Connected, to get all of those folks who do work in the economic development field together once a month to coordinate and to assist one another and not work in opposition to the other entities. And again, that includes representatives from the city, staff, elected officials, Mary or her designee from Saline Main Street, representatives from the chamber, and then representatives from Saline area schools, along with special guests on occasion.
Correct. And I would also like to say that we do have somewhat of a relationship with Ann Arbor Spark. They have come to our business and property owner meetings to help train on some products that they have available. So I would love to cultivate more of that and see where we can kind of mesh efforts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think alignment in that space is pretty needed, because I bet if you asked all of us on, the day is here, what does economic development look like for you? We're going to get different answers. And the other part of that, and I think I just have to say that workforce development is a portion of economic development that I think we have an opportunity to do a lot better with. There are far more citizens in this city who could be upskilled, who could gain new skills, than there are going to be businesses that want to move to Saline. And so I think that we are missing an opportunity there, I believe, to start creating a talented workforce within our city. When I think about economic development, I also think about economic viability for the citizens. And so I hope that as that relationship is built and there's alignment, that we do start to look at ways in which our workforce within the city can be developed as well.
I would love to talk to you more further about that. Talent acquisition and improvement has not been one of our strategic plan points yet, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Additional questions, Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, did I offered it to
Go ahead.
to Harmont first. My apologies, Jan. Get you next.
I think that my comment on this agenda item is going to be similar to my comment on agenda item 127, is that I think I love what you're doing and I love the energy that it's been bringing and all the different projects that we've had, that we've endeavored. I think there's still some opportunity to tying in metrics for performance and saying, okay, this is what we're going into, this is our objective, and then reflecting at the end of the season, did we meet our objectives? Do we, tying in the dollars to the outcome and the benefits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just, I know I've attended the board meetings for Saline Main Street where they do go through their annual objectives, their annual work plan, and then there is obviously reflection on, kind of how we did on that item and, where we need to improve. So the board definitely works on that, and I know you can share that via the annual report and things of that nature.
Yes, absolutely. But there is always room to improve on that and finding metrics. I have a lot of data. It just needs to be kind of brought together. So, yeah.
The previous community manager, I want to follow up on this one. Just the previous community manager used to provide that data to us weekly, what they were meeting about and all the attachments. I think he just forwarded your email just so we could see what's going on.
Like the agenda?
Yeah, the agenda and all your attachments and stuff.
Yeah, and just even for the events and stuff that we're putting on, this is what our objective was. We were going to bring in X, what's a measurable number of people, number of revenue, whatever it is, and then did we meet that? And then if it didn't meet that, then what do we need to do next time in order to meet that? Or was that the right objective to set? So I kind of want to see that, setting the goals and then reflecting to see if we meet the goals and having that reported out to City Council.
I'm assuming you have no objection if that information is forwarded via the city manager's weekly communique. We'll make that happen. My apologies, Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation that we've had from council members right now. I had asked that we move this to a discussion item versus just consent, just to have a better understanding of it. The attachments were a little wanky to me because
They're missing the exhibits, that's what I wondered.
The exhibit. The outcome report, I remember when we had a big meeting, we talked it through this, and then Main Street kind of developed it. And as Mr. Hall mentioned, it dates back to 2023. What I'd love to see is sort of where have you progressed on it? Where have things fallen off? And kind of understand that. And I really would love to understand, and I think this goes back to what Ms. Harmont had mentioned, of where you see the value in the dollars and what is, should there be different programming? Is there something more? Do you need more money? And not that I'm offering, but do you need more money to do X, Y, Z, or is there some other way in which something could be done? So I think if there's an opportunity to revisit that outcomes report and update it, I think that would be very beneficial. The other thing too is the the budget that's provided doesn't actually check the box of what the contract requires. It actually requires some very specific things in it. So I think that at some point we really need to look at where the $30,000, the bee blooming dollars are. It's very self.
I think that we had that a couple years ago, and then we didn't have it last year because we pretty much repurposed last year's exhibits to move forward with this this year because we're not making any changes in our ask this year. But I 100% agree with you that one of the things that I haven't done this year, and I know that this has been kind of just a year in transition, so to speak, but I haven't come forth and given you some of the data that we've got, that we've collected, and the objectives that we've achieved so far. And usually we do that a couple times a year. So I would love to be able to do that again later this year, perhaps.
We would love to host you again. So I appreciate that. And then, you know, we all know that you're doing great things there. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that you did acquire another funding source this year through Oracle. And how does that where is that piece going? Does it sort of piggyback onto the city's thing? Is it a different use?
So we've received two funding sources from Oracle. One is as a sponsor of Salty Summer Sounds. That is a nominal amount. We did receive, however, and I've been talking about this, but I haven't publicly announced it yet because we're still working on the foundation of it and the infrastructure of it, but we received $50,000 from Oracle in order to create a revolving loan fund for the downtown businesses in case of emergency or in case of necessary upgrades. And we are working on creating, like I said, the infrastructure for that, the guidelines for that, and the policies behind that right now before we fully release it to our businesses, but hopefully that should be soon. So we have both Shelley Rankin and Tom Mikula on the committee, so they are both bankers. We have obviously Jill Durnan, who is our board president, and Jenny Preston, who is our board treasurer. So, and she's also a CPA. So I've reached out to, and also Chris Atkin. He's also representing the city on that as well, so that we can try to create something that could help with building build outs for new businesses, or if one of our businesses had an immediate need of a dishwasher to be replaced, and as long as they meet certain requirements that are less stringent than a normal loan might be through a bank, but still within reason and common sense, that we might be able to help them a little bit quicker and with less red tape than the banks might. So I look forward to telling you more about that soon.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That's a great initiative. My only complaint, as we've talked about in the past, is long-term, I'd like to see more than $50,000 in that account. I think a larger dollar amount in excess of, or in the six figures would make more of an impact. But you got to start somewhere. So I think it's a positive development. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any additional questions? Councilmember Gearbaugh.
Just a couple. This is for the city manager. Will we be receiving the exhibits? They're blank pages in the agenda?
The budget was included as an attachment, as well as the outcomes was kind of identify the key recommendation, key activities that they would be working on, so we can convert that into exhibits. So yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because that didn't appear on that. And then the other thing, is the $1 million still sufficient for liability coverage?
Obviously,
it hasn't been changed in many years. That's why I'm wondering, and just didn't know if we assessed that from a perspective of our own insurance requirements.
We're not directly involved in, other than, working with the board on, various events, things like that. And, for some things, then there is additional insurance required for certain events as well, if there's a risk for, an outsized risk. But again, this is just our relationship with Saline Main Street. So I think $1 million is sufficient for any liability to incur in that relationship.
And then do we still continue to track the in-kind services that we provide in association with the activities that occur uptown?
For each event, we do track kind of the cost for support with that. The DPW does provide an estimate for that. So yes is the short answer.
And banners and anything else that's requested of our DPW as part of it. I just that we were starting to get a very large dollar amount, and concerns were a lot of the work that was being done took away from what DPW was doing. I just want to make sure that we continue to follow that. And then lastly, one thing I would like to see Main Street, and as we talk about this, One of the ideas of downtown is having it to grow. And so as we look to expand the downtown and actually redevelop it from perspectives, which initiatives we started maybe 2 years ago, and whoever will take these going forward, is to look at expanding Main Street to go further down all the way to Mills, potentially, as you know, down to Bennett, and hopefully at some point, maybe all the way to Maple as we incorporate all that. I would look forward to the budget, to the board and your group becoming part of that and really help pushing it, because I think the success of downtown is based upon its expansion and its density being increased. And at this point, until that starts to really be championed by another group besides the city, we are not going to be successful in the future, and we need it to happen. So however you all can help us to achieve that, I would really greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. I know that, I think I've said it before, but I'm interested in seeing what happens, especially with the Davenport Curtis Mansion, as it goes into the future, because that should eventually, if we were to keep that property on as part of city property, it should be incorporated into the Main Street program, I think, eventually. That's my opinion, not necessarily my board opinion, but I think that I could be persuasive for them. So.
And as we look at McKay Street and some of those other areas where that is prime for redevelopment, I know there's historical aspects there, but there's some areas that definitely need to be growing that way. And without a champion to help us push for that, especially with our planning and everything, we need that leadership from you all. So
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you.
So add that too, we've been working with Director Atkins on the redevelopment ready communities aspect, and so there's some funding through the state to do some kind of what I'll call scenario planning, if you will, or redevelopment work, so that we can take a deep look at certain parcels of property that have redevelopment potential and get some engineering work and some preliminary development design done. So I think that's another area we need to pursue.
Excellent.
Per that email I forwarded to you from Nahid Huck from SEMCOG, I think we've got till like September, October to submit those documents to qualify for some additional funding.
I think that was the Housing Readiness Initiative.
Excuse me, okay.
Yeah.
Conflating two different things, okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're going to proceed to vote, but the motion is simply to acknowledge receipt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to approve or not to approve? Moved by Gearbox to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Harmon. Is there any additional discussion? Thank you again, Mary. Appreciate your leadership and time tonight.
One question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I know we just mentioned having the economic director position in our budget. Is that something that we foresee? I guess, do we foresee the creation of that position overlapping within the length of this agreement? And if so, will hiring that person change anything about this agreement?
I don't think so. You want to take that?
To your point, I think there's plenty of work to be done in this field, and so I don't see, I see that a collaborative position in my previous communities, where there was an economic development director on staff at the city, they worked very closely with either DDA or in this case, obviously Saline Main Street, and it was really more of a collaboration, and so there's plenty of work to go around, and I wouldn't see it causing any issue with this particular agreement.
Awesome, thank you.
I think the creation of that position, while more broader and focused than just Saline Main Street, can only serve to assist and elevate the activities, operations, and programs of Saline Main Street in the years ahead. So I think it will be very beneficial. Motion on the floor by Gearbox, seconded by Harmon to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business item 26-126, Saline Bridges, Monroe and Woodland West, MDOT Local Bridge Program, Spicer Design Engineering. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt, to approve or not to approve the Saline Bridge, Monroe and Woodland West, MDOT Local Bridge Program, Spicer Design Engineering in an amount not to exceed $43,000.
Move to acknowledge and approve.
Moved by Gearbox to acknowledge and approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Del Orco. City Manager O'Toole, or excuse me, City Manager Swallow, are you taking the lead on this, or do you want me to defer to?
Turn over to Director McNeil, but this is some good news. City has received
No, I'm going way back.
MDOT funding for local bridge programs, so a lot of this design work, but ultimately the construction work will be grant funded through the state of Michigan. So that's the positive, but we need to obviously start with the design and evaluation of the bridges. So 2 bridges identified in this particular proposal, and I'll
turn it over to Director McNeil if he has anything more detail relative to the Spicer Group proposal specifically.
Director McNeil, I won't confuse you with former DPW directors, Searles, Fordyce, et cetera. Yeah, the floor is yours if you want to expand on the comments of the city manager.
Yeah, as he said, city applied for funding through MDOT, through the local bridge program. 95% of it will be covered for the maintenance aspect of it. To get a little bit more detailed about the maintenance aspect, there's a membrane that sits on top of the concrete structure of the bridge. Oh boy, of the bridge. So they got to remove the asphalt, the top layer, get down to that membrane. They got to replace the membrane, and then they're going to rebuild the road structure back up and replace the asphalt. So that's a quick synopsis of what kind of work will be done on those bridges. It's going to go a long way to prevent water and salt reaching down to the concrete deck and rusting out any of the reinforcement steel or getting into the concrete and creating an issue with the concrete deck. So that's why it's important to do the preventative maintenance. And again, it's kind of a no-brainer job that we need to take care of, especially when it's 95% funded. So we don't have to worry about it for a long future. And so that is kind of the breakdown of what the Spicer will be doing, the design engineering, to make sure that we get that done appropriately.
Very good. Councilmember Harmon, I believe you had a question pertaining to this agenda item.
No, I just kind of would like to understand how we're going to be diverting traffic and how it's going to impact people that live in the connecting communities like Huntington Woods for Monroe Street and how are we going to direct the traffic and communicate the changes?
Generally speaking, they'll be able to keep one lane open, so it'll be flagmen on either end, allowing traffic through. But obviously, there may be periods of time where that needs to be altered. So, any other thoughts on how that?
I mean, part of the plan will be figuring out exactly how we need to administer the road traffic. So that will be talked about during, once we get closer to the actual construction. But as Dan said, all effort will be made in order to keep a lane open. If not, there'll be detours or adequate flagging to advise the local community on how to detour around.
And we should get in front of it with the communication to not just the folks in the impacted surrounding subdivisions or whatever, but also the community in general, so that they have to travel that path, they can accommodate for their time accordingly.
Absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I don't want to skip over the fact that the city applied for and received $436,000 in funding from MDOT for this. So I just want to thank previous city engineer Humphreys and whomever else worked on that application, because that's the kind of stuff, when we receive outside funding, that's the kind of stuff that frees up funding for the other things that the community has been asking for. So just can't thank y'all enough for working hard to get that money.
Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. Mr. McNeil, just a quick question for you. As we received this letter is dated November 3rd of 2025, and it had said that we had program applications. Have those been submitted already?
The program applications.
That it says that we need to please complete program application for bridge projects and submit with the preliminary plans. I'm just concerned that this letter is dated 7-8 months ago. Has this been done? And are we still, hopefully we do not forego at this point?
I believe the work is completed.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
The only other question I have is, can you remind me, do we, and you may not know the answer, I'm not sure, somebody up here must, do we have other bridges? And what other bridges do we have and what are their conditions?
Well, for example, Woodland, we're going to replace the culvert.
Well, that, yes.
That's a big one.
Waterworks.
Waterworks, yeah.
And then Ann Arbor Drive, and then there's one on Ann Arbor, that giant culvert, North Ann Arbor, the giant culvert. I don't know if that's considered a bridge or not.
Similar, in the vicinity of Steiner Court and
Woodland, Steiner, that right there.
Yep.
And so do we do inspections and it was determined that these were rose to the top? Is that?
We're required by MDOT to do inspections of our local bridges. And so obviously, as identified needs, went after funding for this. MDOT does have local bridge funding. So they were the key, the top priority bridges.
Yeah, we have 3 bridges that are due for inspection this year that will be performed by Spicer sometime in September.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions or discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
Is this a renewable funding source, or is this just a one-time?
The state continues to fund it, but you have to apply each time.
Okay.
And it's statewide, so it is a very competitive program. So yes, to Councilwoman Rice's point, it was very advantageous that we're able to obtain this funding.
Awesome. If there's nothing further, there's a motion on the floor moved by Gearboss, seconded by Del Orrico to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. And this, again, the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business item 26-127, Farmers Market Manager Contract. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the contract for Farmers Market Manager to Daisy Lupa and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Moved by Gearboss to acknowledge and approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rice. City Manager Swallow.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As I think some of you are aware, our longer-term manager, Dana Queen, has decided to not extend her contract. She has other things she wants to pursue career-wise. So with that, we started to look for a new replacement for the Farmers Market Manager. We advertised that on the city website as well as social media, and we had 6 applications. One of the applications rose to the top, Ms. Lupa. She is basically has a lot of experience with local food networks as well as in her high school years, participated in Future Farmers America. She's also involved in Farmers Market Association and other entities. So she brings a lot of experience with that. Believe it or not, she also has a degree in political science as well as pursuing her master's in global environmental policy. So she has a real passion for this area of work. So in negotiations with her, we worked out we'd like to pursue a 75-week contract, or about basically 18 months. A little bit longer than we typically have done 1 year. But one of the comments from Ms. Queen was that it's obviously easier to transition to market in the winter versus in the summer. So if we could extend that, that made a fair amount of sense. So with that, this is basically an hourly contract. So each week or each month, Ms. Lupa would submit her hours for that period of time, and the city would pay her basically on a $25 an hour rate. There's also some additional funding for supplies, miscellaneous supplies that she may need to operate the market, some marketing materials, things of that nature. So with that, we're proposing a total contract of $46,000. Of that, the amount for wages would be $37,500, with the balance of being available for market materials and other things that the market may need. So take any questions that you may have.
Very good. Well, I want to congratulate and thank Ms. Queen for her many years of service. I can't remember if the farmers market was conceived under the leadership of then Mayor Driscoll and others in 2001 or 2002, but it's either in its 25th or 24th year. Assuming the motion passes this evening, Ms. Lupa will be our 5th manager. So we've been blessed with some very gifted, talented, and committed managers over the years, and hopefully she'll be able to take it to the next level. And I fully support the recommendation. We'll be voting in the affirmative in just a moment. Are there questions for the city manager regarding the process or this particular application? Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. I had asked the question earlier, and just to clarify and put it out for the public, there's a statement in the contract that talks about a contracted assistant manager. Does the manager hire somebody to assist? And is that like a temporary position, or?
What has happened in the past is they basically have a subcontractor, if you will. So an individual that they may need to, if they can't make it certain Saturdays, things of that nature, that they are allowed to basically obtain their own assistant manager if needed.
Okay, and they do they, because they're handling cash from the city, are they going through the same city process, so they would have to be pre-approved by the city?
We can. There's not a specific procedure for that in the contract, but certainly we can talk about how that would function. So,
okay, and as a contractor, just understanding, because they're handling sizable petty cash every week, and they're moving cash from one location to another and such, just so understanding that they've met all of the benchmarks, they've had the same background checks as others have that participate within the city.
And there's obviously key tracking for this. They're required to provide regular reports and we actually check that against the amount of vendors as well as the other expenses. So reporting is key as part of the contract, and I would suggest yes, if they're handling cash, we would do a background check on any assistant manager as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And then my only other question was that in the past, we did actually get report outs from the markets, and I think we actually had asked for those because there was a sizable jump in the cost a few years back, and it was like trying to sort of find that whether or not this was something that we were going to continue doing and keep funding in the same manner. And I think that's when they were able to find some alternative funding sources to offset some of the city ones. But I would like to go back, like we had just said with Saline Main Street, I'd like to go back to them providing some sort of reporting to understand. I know that they do client counts, they do vendor counts, things like that, and sort of understanding if they're getting feedback, whether positive or negative, just so that we know, if there's areas in which we need to improve on or what the feel is for the market.
So absolutely, as noted in the job description or the list of services, if you will, that is included as Exhibit A, they are required to track that information in terms of vendors as well as, obviously, as you mentioned, clients and things of that nature. So there's no reason we can't provide a report to council.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Councilman Rice, Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I just want to also say that Ms. Queen has done an amazing job over the last few years. I think the excitement downtown on Saturday mornings has been great. And I think we are just so lucky that we got an applicant with such fine background and experience and wanting to do a position like this to benefit the community. I think it's really cool. So I think it's a testament to who we are as Saline. So appreciate all the work they're all doing.
Very good. Any additional discussion? Motion on the floor moved by Gearboss, seconded by Rice to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. New business item 26-129, fiscal year 2027 blanket purchase order for DuBois Chemical. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt, to approve or not to approve the FY27 blanket purchase order for DuBois Chemicals.
Move to acknowledge.
Moved by Dillon, simply to acknowledge. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Delrico. In the absence of the wastewater treatment superintendent, City Manager Swallow, are you taking the lead on this?
I can start. So again, thank you, Mayor and Council. Obviously, the wastewater treatment plant as well as the water treatment plant has a number of suppliers that are required for chemicals and other materials that are used by those plants. So DuBois Chemical is one of our larger suppliers for our wastewater treatment plant in particular. They provide a lot of the chemicals, called Delpac chemicals that are required for treatment of our wastewater. So basically to help take out solids and contaminants in the wastewater stream. This is again one of the major expenses. It's what they call flocculant, so it tracks any phosphorus and other potential items in the wastewater stream and helps settle those out. So this is a blanket purchase order request because often we do go over the $25,000 limit that I have authority to approve. So requesting approval from council on that. Just to give you an idea, I know I emailed out earlier some of the annual spending with DuBois Chemical is about $400,000 roughly annually is what we spend with them.
Very good. Questions, Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. Again, I had asked that this be pulled just to have a conversation regarding it because I was not comfortable with the phrase blanket purchase order. I think it should have a not to exceed amount to it. And so either, I know you had given us that, you thought about 400. What is in the budget?
So it not only includes DuBois, but there's other supplies that are for the wastewater treatment plant. So I don't know that.
Okay, so it doesn't have its own line item then?
No, it does not.
Okay. I would be, based on the information you gave us, I would like to put in a not to exceed amount of 400,000.
If you want to offer that when we entertain the subsequent motion, that would be acceptable. Additional questions, Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Are any of our new procedures at the wastewater treatment plant going to potentially lower some of these costs, or is this, I'm trying to figure out what the procedures are here, but I don't need to get into the weeds on that. Any chance we can lower these costs when we get everything up and running?
Potentially, the new basically aeration for the activated sludge, if you will, does have more benefit in terms of treatment. So it is possible that some of those phosphorus, in particular, may be able to be removed prior to reaching the stage where the chemical is added.
Cool, thanks.
Additional questions? Mr. Gearba?
Can you just clarify that $400,000, is that number sufficient or that the Councilmember Dillon's proposing?
I believe so, based on our previous expenditures this last fiscal year.
Okay.
If there's no additional questions or discussion, let's proceed to vote. We have a motion on the floor simply to acknowledge receipt. That was moved by Dillon, seconded by Delorco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to approve or not to approve, or is there amended language that an individual would like to offer?
I'll move to approve with amended language,
Okay, please proceed.
including as written, and then including in an amount not to exceed $400,000.
Okay. Clerk Royal, you clear on that?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Gearba. Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the last enumerated action item, 26-131, Davenport Curtis Working Group Subcommittees. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to establish and approve the creation of 8 subcommittees requested by the Davenport Curtis House Working Group.
Move to acknowledge.
Moved in by Dillon, simply to acknowledge. Is there a second? Seconded by Gearba. Councilmember Gearba, and I would defer to Councilmember Delorco as the official council liaisons to this body. Do you want to provide some comment on this proposal and the fact that some subsequent action will need to be considered by council probably in the next 30 to 60 days?
Sure. These 8 subcommittees, I think it's 8, isn't it?
Yep.
Were determined by our members of the working committee. There were approximately 12 to 13 that were initially identified, which we all agreed was too many. Basically, we're attempting to try and focus on some of the areas that we believe oversight needed and subgroups could be able to work upon. The intent is that one of the members of the working group will be the chair, and then hopefully either additional members of the committee, or what we're hoping is that members of the public will be able to apply and serve on these different committees. A lot of them are focusing on policy and procedure, finance, the preservation. The goal of the one group is to look at the property in its entirety, to do the preservation, set up its zoning use, looking at those aspects. And the other ones are just advancement and administration, and so forth. Although we know there's a bigger project to move forward in terms of the overall use and planning of it, it was felt that these subcommittees would be able to address some of the needs in terms of things that will hopefully be part of the activation of the mansion and its grounds over the next couple of years. And then we may be reevaluating these as we move forward in terms of whether compiling them or creating other ones. But we felt that these were probably the most utilized ones that would be basically needed at this point in time, especially if we're looking at creating a 501c3 and some of the other things. In order to make those things move quickly, we need to assign to people that want to do those particular activities.
Very good. Councilmember Delorco, anything you'd like to add as the second council liaison to the Davenport Curtis House Working Group?
I would only add that one of the another impetus for establishing these subcommittees, as discussed at our last working group, was to mobilize a campaign to recruit some volunteers to serve on these subcommittees, as the members of the group that we currently have are currently very taxed with all their responsibilities and all the things that we're participating in now to establish the future direction for the Davenport Curtis Mansion. And we're going to need more members of the community to participate in this process, and this will enable us to recruit those members of the members of the community to serve on these subcommittees. It was also important, as Council Member Gearbaugh mentioned, that we wanted very much for the core members of the working group to serve as the chairs of these subcommittees, and at some point we're also going to need to figure out how to establish professional services in areas where we lack the expertise to move certain things forward, real estate, and deed restrictions, so on and so forth. So in order for us to meet the timelines and the tight restrictions that we're faced with a 3-year end date, we need to bring in more people.
Very good. Questions from the dais? Councilmember Dillon, and then Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Thank you. So I understand what they're doing here. I want to make sure that we're also not losing sight of the big issues here, which is making sure that the 501 is set up so that the use of another 501 from another entity is a very short-term use and not turn into a solution, because it's not the right one. The other thing that I feel like we have not talked about, and I'm hoping it's going to circle around soon, is a big part of the purchase of this was the historic preservation of this property. And I want to make sure that that is still in the forefront of what's being done for it. Understanding our historic districts being set up, what is that going to look like? And so I want to make sure that these are the big things, because all I hear right now in the public side of things is party planning, events. And I want to understand that the purpose of the property is what we're using it for and what we want to use it for in the future, and understand that. I do want to also ensure that before we set up more subcommittees, that the city has firmly established what the guidelines are for those committees, for committees and subcommittees, whether there will be notes taken, whether those people, what the process will look like of putting people on, removing people from committees, and ensuring that there is always a current work group member a part of the subcommittee. I think that's going to be a key aspect of it. And the other thing, before we start bringing more people into the fold, I'd like to ensure that that property has been fully secured and everything cataloged, to make sure that we are not having more people going into that property and not understanding, you know, whether things are happening, whether things disappear, whether things break, whatever the case may be, and just understanding that.
And we can make sure that most of those points are addressed. As you'll recall, the committee, specifically the chair, is required to give a mid-year update on the progress of the working group, which will occur, I believe, at the first meeting in August. So it's coming up in less than a month. Mr. Gearbow, did you want to provide any additional comments to those remarks?
That is our main point. I mean, we will be in September re-engaging our facilitator to help work with the community in terms of activating the property or what we would do with it in the future. That's the reason why we created these specific groups, namely preservation, protection, and land use. Our design, that subcommittee, is to look and work with the Historical District Commission, which is already, I guess, through our Chris Atkin, our staff liaison with that, is looking at helping that create a study group to address the historic district aspect of it. We are reassigning these because we need to have people responsible for these things. We know that aspects are already kind of slipping through the cracks, so we're looking at these individuals to manage things such as facility and grounds specifically. The other piece of it, as you mentioned, historical resources and collections. We've worked with Eastern Michigan to catalog as much as we can, but as same thing that I have as concern is that we need to make sure all those things are properly managed and collected and tracked so that things don't disappear or things by chance are lost. So we are working on that. So this is the reason why we're creating these groups, to make sure that we accomplish those specific issues and have people assigned to it. I believe that we will basically move the level of our bylaws down to these subcommittees, requiring the specific approach that is required of them to be addressed by these specific subcommittees, so that that concern will be addressed. But if there's other concerns or issues that you feel that would be needed to be addressed, I'd appreciate that kind of input to both myself or to Rebecca Schneider as the chair of the committee. Or work group. And we keep doing it, working group. Sorry, we have three different descriptions.
And I would add, too, that yes, all the subcommittees will be chaired by a working group member, and at least two, I think sometimes three other subcommittee members will be present. And I don't think there'd be any objection or concern about having them take copious notes to document the progress and work that they're pursuing. Mayor Pro Tem Rice, and then Councilmember Harmount.
I think these topics are spot on, and I think dividing things and having someone who's already on the working group lead these things. Where I hesitate is volunteer fatigue and adding more people to this and taking people's energy away from other projects across the city, Saline Main Street, parks, things like that. I understand the need of wanting some expertise on these committees, but I would just encourage folks to find maybe one or two people, not entire subcommittees, simply because, again, volunteer fatigue focused on one aspect of this city, I think, is going to eventually harm other aspects of the city. So just, think about, I think Councilmember Dillon, as being a lifelong volunteer, can attest to this. Like, the more you volunteer, the more you want to volunteer, but then you get real tired. So I don't want people to lose energy in the work that they're doing here for the community.
Fair enough. Points well taken. Councilmember Harmon.
One of the discussion items that was brought up about the security of the items and the property, and I was thinking, does everybody on the committee and subcommittees have access to the inside of the house at any time, or is it limited to specific individuals? And I'm hoping that we have Ring cameras set up around the house and we've secured it so that we don't. And I also agree with the idea of making sure that everything's been secured and accounted for before.
The house is secure. It has an alarm system. It has protection from fire and theft. It has cameras placed on both. All the buildings are preserved and being monitored. So anybody gets into that place, we're gonna.
So the access is limited to.
Oh, very much so. Just a few individuals
that have access.
Who have just a few individuals have keys and the code to get into the home.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Let me jump to Councilmember Hulsh, and then I'll yield the floor to you, Councilmember Delorco, in the event that you have some comments to share before we vote on the motion. You're down to proceed.
Sure. I guess my question is, it's kind of similar to some of the discussions that we think about with the rec center, in particular on, what does it look like closing it? I remember when we initially approved the purchase of the house, one of the things that we talked about is getting to that 3-year point, and if necessary, having an off-ramp. And so as I'm looking at this, to me, it seems that we've kind of closed that exit ramp. And so with that being in mind, will there be more, I guess, details released as to kind of why we see a path of viability, and then kind of wondering what happens if we don't meet those benchmarks, and we do have to divest because, we get to year 3 and we realize that this isn't going to be something financially sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Councilmember Delorco or Councilmember Gearbar are welcome to chime in here. I don't think that the working group has eliminated that as an option. I think that we're keenly aware that we might not be able to make this work and put it on a sustainable trajectory. And the final recommendation may be to sell the property with certain restrictions. I hope that's not the case, and I feel pretty optimistic and confident that we will be able to activate it. I do want to preface this evening and in the ensuing weeks and months that we are in the very earliest stages of this process. And so while a lot of great work has been done by some really dedicated volunteers, we're just at this juncture scratching the surface. So to your point, absolutely, there will be a lot more of information shared in the ensuing months and years. And I would actually look for quite a bit of substance by the time this group reports out via their annual report, which will be required in the first quarter of 2027. Mr. Gearbaugh, Mr. Dork, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to say we just got on the entrance ramp. We're barely even halfway down it. I'm not even halfway down it. We have 3 years to make a decision. As I would like to say, you compare to the rec center, we've been 13 years on the entrance ramp to the rec center. We're still not even on the freeway with that one. So I think we have a dedicated group that's looking at doing this. We're identifying it, but we're only 3 months into it, and I think we need to give us a little more time in order to get this to be determined. So that's my statement.
Mr. Delorco?
With respect to the exit ramp issue, yeah, we're a handful of months into this process, and it's an enormous undertaking. So I just ask for a little bit of patience there. I want to clarify some of the mission of the Davenport Curtis Mansion Working Group And while I'm certainly appreciative of some of the concerns and some of the criticisms, I want to step back and just kind of justify some of the reasons for the perception of the group being mostly about party planning. That may be an impression and that may be a valid impression, but the reason for the party is to engage the public and to get some early wins for public support to help mobilize our efforts. And I think including the public as part of that process will be instrumental in helping to achieve that goal. With respect to the volunteer fatigue, I want to take advantage of the fact that we had a great deal of folks from the community interested in serving on this working group, and we had to turn them away. And those applications are sitting there, and if we can reach back out to those folks in a timely manner, we may be able to secure their interest and investment in serving on the working group. I'm sensitive to the reality that we ask a lot of our citizens. There's a lot of boards and commissions to go around. For whatever reason, people are very passionate about this project and they want to get involved. So we're hoping to take advantage of that. With respect to security subcommittees, I'm not convinced that we need to use the House as a place to meet with our subcommittees. We could probably use other venues for that purpose. We do need to be mindful of security and being thorough about which members of the community we choose, and I suspect they'll be submitted to the same background checks as anyone else that serves on any other boards and commissions. I don't know if it's a historical precedent that we have bylaws created for every subcommittee that serves on every board and commission, but if that's something this council wants to entertain, I'm not opposed to making sure that the people we select have integrity and are of the right mind and body to do this job. But we do need help. We are going to need professional expertise, and I don't think we can rely on the however 11, 12 members of the board of the working group to get all this work done if this is going to be a realistic goal.
Councilmember Dillon, before we vote on the motion, acknowledge your seat.
Thank you. I do want to follow up because there were a couple of comments that were made about, oh, we're just entering the highway. We don't have a plan yet. But then there's also statements of we're fundraising for an ADA ramp. These are statements that are being actively made that we're putting in an ADA ramp to allow access to the house. And I feel like that is, the cart isn't just before the horse, it's down the road. And council has not chosen to go in that direction. And I'm getting very concerned about this whole aspect of the public entering that property at this point. We've just said, we're at the very early stages of it. Why are we rushing to have an entrance into this property and to have the public into it at this point when we're not sure exactly how it's going to be activated? Yeah. So I want to make sure that there are not decisions being made at a committee level that don't come through this body.
They can't be made at the committee level. The committee is simply an advisory panel like most of our boards, committees, and commissions, so it can only make recommendations to this body. I don't think there's anybody that's in a particular rush to put in an ADA ramp. An external fund or benefactor has been secured, but that will need to be designed and engineered, and any proposal to approve will need to be presented to City Council and ultimately approved by City Council before we proceed.
But again, that's the cart before the horse. You've found a benefactor for an item that we don't even know if we need at this point.
They came to us.
And so, well, it doesn't matter. It's just, I'm saying that again, but that conversation has not even come to this body that there was a benefactor. And so kind of understanding who's driving this motion here of this is the way in which we're going to go. I just want to make sure that with creating these subcommittees, we're saying we need more time to explore a lot of different things. And in creating this, okay, we're going to put in an ADA ramp and have people in this house, you've committed to a certain direction.
Yeah, I understand the concern, and I hear your characterization. I don't agree with it. Again, I don't think they're putting the cart before the horse. And like I just articulated, any proposal to actually install or earmark or allocate funding would have to come to this body for approval. Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Just to play devil's advocate, I mean, if it's a city-owned property, we need an ADA ramp. If we wanted a service provider who was handicapped and needed accessibility, if one of our subcommittee members needed accessibility, you know, regardless of whether or not we sell this house in 3 years, I would be fully in support of putting an ADA ramp on it for just those reasons. I never want to tell anyone, we're sorry, we don't have the ability to get you in the home. Like I said, a service provider, someone doing the HVAC, someone working on the toilets, something like that. I would never want to deny their contract simply because we can't get them into the house. So as a city-owned entity, it would be very irresponsible if we weren't thinking about that during the 3 years that we own it, from my perspective.
Okay, we're going to proceed to vote. We have a motion on the floor to simply acknowledge receipt of the memorandum pertaining to the establishment of subcommittees. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to establish and approve or not to establish and approve?
Move to establish and approve.
Moved by Gearba. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Del Orco. Is there any additional discussion? There appear to be none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. On to reports and other announcements. And City Manager Swallow, per the conversation that Councilmember Halsh and I had with you on last Wednesday, I think an update on the dam was inadvertently omitted here. Do you want to give a very brief update? Or I guess I ask a question of council first. Well, I'm going to ask a question of the city manager first. Is it still your intent to have a mill race proposal on the July 20th agenda?
That is the intent. We're still waiting back from additional information from O'Neill's Contracting that had made the initial proposal. In review of that, basically there was some, provisions for sediment removal that they had not incorporated into their contract. And based on conversations with the Department of Public Services, that we are not capable of doing that in-house. So we've asked them to provide the additional detail, additional costs, if there will be, for that portion of the contract. So we have not received that yet, but the goal is to have that for next week.
Okay. In addition to that matter, as council will recall, when this issue was last discussed, I think it was either in March. I know it was in March. There appeared at that time to be consensus. I think it was maybe 5-2 or 4-3 in favor of putting this issue on the November ballot and allowing the electorate, the broader community, to decide the fate of the dam, either removal or restoration. I wanted to see if that's still the consensus. I don't really personally care. If you think that that's premature or ill-advised at this juncture, please say so. But if the desire is to still put this on the ballot, more specifically put it on the November ballot, we're going to need to be able to review language at our next council meeting, which the attorneys have already been tipped off on and are working on some sample language. So if I may start at the end, again, speak freely, but if you'd like to pursue this as a ballot initiative, say so, and we'll have material for you to consider on July the 20th. Councilmember Harmon?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Rice?
Yes, but I would also be amenable, should we not need to make a decision this year, to putting it on the next ballot.
Okay, fair enough. Councilmember Gearba?
Without any kind of funding, no.
No, okay. Councilmember Dillon?
Agreed, without funding, there's no point putting something on.
Okay, Councilmember Del Orco?
I'd like to see it move to the public as a ballot initiative.
Okay, Councilmember Halsh?
Yeah, definitely on the ballot.
Okay, so we'll have some sample language for you to review on the 20th. That's not committing any of you to voting in favor of it. If you review the language or if you have conversations between now and the 20th, or new information comes to light and you feel that that's not prudent, you are not obligated to vote in the affirmative, but that will be an issue for consideration on the July the 20th.
Mayor, can you confirm, when does the language have to be turned in?
August 12th. Has to go to the county.
So we're going to have 2 weeks to get something put in. When is our August meeting?
We would, August 10th, so you'd have to approve it at the August 10th meeting for it to go to the county by the 12th.
Or you could approve it next Monday on the 20th. Okay. Was there additional question?
Yeah, it has, I guess Clerk Royal would know. Another part of it is the potential for there to be a citizen-led initiative and citizen-led ballot language. Do we know if that has taken place?
I do not believe so.
Okay, so it would just be ultimately us.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's transition to reports and announcements. I'm going to begin with, I think I began the last couple times with Councilmember Harmelt, so I'll begin with Councilmember Halsh. Councilmember Halsh, do you have any reports, announcements, or updates from committees, commissions, or task forces?
Yes, the biggest being we'll be having our last Arts and Culture Committee meeting before Jazz at the Mansion now. Jazz at the Mansion will be the 18th. Someone lost their phone. I use it all the time. But July 18th from 4 to 8, we will be having Jazz at the Mansion. We're really excited to kind of be that first big event at the Mansion. There'll be vendors, art vendors, there'll be food trucks. We have a pretty impressive lineup of performers. So it's my favorite event that kind of happens in the city because I think it really does bring a very diverse crowd and like a different crowd than some of the other events that we have. And so I would encourage everyone to come, just if you're curious to see what the Mansion is like, to that event this Saturday.
Thank you. Councilmember Delorco, reports, announcements, updates from any boards, commission, committee, or task forces?
Just to piggyback on that, we're preparing for Jazz at the Mansion with the Davenport Curtis working group, the working group. I want to take a special moment to thank Rebecca Schneider, Dean and Brian Gearbaugh, Mary Dutling for their participation in meeting at the house on Saturday morning to clear away a lot of the thistles and weeds and ivy growing up the walls. And it was a lot of work. We got to clean up quite a bit, and I know the DPW will be out there this week doing more work on that aspect. The risk mitigation group had a productive meeting last week. We started working through the last version of the finalized document and taking an inventory of where things are, the scoring process, and if there were things that could be moved to different categories and different probability ratings. We didn't get all the way through the document, but we really got a significant start on that, so I'm happy about that. And our asset management subcommittee met as well. Engineer Humphreys did a fantastic job providing us with a project list of things we need to be focused and prioritizing over the next fiscal year in terms of capital management, new development, asset management, traffic studies, roads, administration. It really helped focus our attention on handing the torch and what we need to be focused on moving forward with our asset management plan. So thank you, Engineer Humphreys.
Thank you. Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. Most of my committees are on hiatus in July. I did want to add at the asset management meeting, we do have this extensive list, and with Engineer Humphreys' departure, I think that it's going to be key that we ensure that we reprioritize things and understand what needs to rise to the top immediately, and make sure that it has a successful leadership and plan in place so that it can move forward. And things are going to have to fall away, at least temporarily, and we'll just have to kind of look at that and see. And then I do have one other discussion item. Do you want me to mention that now, or do you want to go just through reports and announcements?
No, you can do it now.
Okay, one of the things that I'd like to ask this body to consider is putting in porta-johns in the parking lot behind Benny's. We utilize that for the farmers market. We utilize that for Thursday night music. It is very difficult to ask people. Businesses don't want them coming in and using their bathrooms. And to traverse across the street, especially if you need to go to a crosswalk, to go across the street to the basement of a building to use bathrooms is really not convenient by any means, and it's actually a detriment to anybody with mobility issues. I believe that we do have extra funding left in our community events budget, and I would like to see us prioritize putting bathrooms in there for the foreseeable season. There will obviously be ones put in for Summerfest, Oktoberfest, but just on a regular basis, having something there that can be used. Well, I noticed that the farmers market, their job on Saturday is to unlock that building. There's been several instances where it is not open. And So there is no access to a public restroom downtown without going into a business.
Yeah, if I may, I think that's a good idea. I'm not going to commit to an emphatic yes, but I would be interested in staff looking into it further and coming back with a price, and also, to Councilmember Dillon's point, determining specifically how much we have left in our community events fund. So I would be amenable for staff pursuing it further and then coming back at either our next meeting or our first meeting in August. Let me start again at this end of the dais. Any objection to having staff look into this and bring back a proposal, Councilmember Armour?
No.
Councilmember Rice?
No, but I would ask, since our Saline Main Street director is here, if the Main Street restrooms are available during summer music, and whether or not we can utilize already established handicapped appropriate. You don't have to run.
Don't hurt yourself, Mary.
Actually, this is the first year that question has been asked a lot already this year about where the public bathrooms are, and I encourage people to go purchase something from one of the local businesses and do it. And so the 109 has bathrooms, and we definitely let people use them if it's an emergency or if it's definitely the members of the band, things like that. But just like every other kind of historic building, our plumbing is fragile and will often back up if overused. And we have seen that, unfortunately, at some of our larger events when it's just our volunteers using it. So that's something that I actually think would be a great idea. So
good.
Yeah, I would prefer invest. I mean, for this year, porta potties would be fine, but maybe we investigate next year doing more of an establishment where like the city helps upgrade those facilities maybe. That way the 109 is becoming more of an asset to the community. But then I also, with Mr. Kinley's updates to his properties, hopefully that will start to be utilized more as well.
Example of that comes, we did basically have rental agreements, if you will, with specific owners, business owners, and provided them a stipend for supplies and repairs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd like that. I mean, just aesthetically.
Is there a sign on the front door that said this is available for public use?
Yeah, that would just be my first instinct. But I do agree, like, let's just nip it in the bud this year, and I'd be amenable to supporting that.
Councilmember Gearbaugh?
I think it's fine if you want to place a handicapped accessible porta-john or whatever, probably in a parking space next to the where we normally put them during Summerfest or whatever, trying to keep them as far away from whatever businesses or impact of that nature. And but that makes sense to have one in that parking lot at this point.
I was concerned about budget, more location.
Yeah, location's going to be really the issue and concerns from the home property owners.
Mr. Delarco?
I support it.
Okay, Councilmember Halsch?
I support.
Okay, all right. So staff is empowered to look into that further and report back. Anything else, Councilmember Dillon?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Gearbaugh?
It's been a busy week, so just kind of as Councilmember Delarco mentioned, asset management met, risk did. One of the things we looked at risk, we were able to actually identify and move down some risks from the 5.5s, the 5.4s where we had. The city has worked hard in trying to address some of the things, especially related to safety and concerns that have happened not only in the DPW but in the wastewater treatment plant. And then also the things that we've looked at from policies and procedures, and especially things from establishing engineering standards and looking at what we put in place in our planning commission and so forth related to site plan reviews and such. So that was helpful. There will be probably a proposal, Lori Champion and myself have been looking at how to better handle this because of the demands and requests and needs that'll happen as a result of trying to implement this related to strategic planning and actually even doing it. There may be a better way to approach it and bring it to council in terms of how they want to have it handled and managed and not placing so much ownership on all the staff and everything regarding everything that they need to accomplish in trying to address those issues. Planning met last week. The topics were basically regarding the requirements of a site plan review related to the green space to comply with the Michigan Zoning Act. We looked at addressing how we will be able to review site plans in general in terms of the aspects of what is required, what can be done administratively, and reviewing the entire ordinance to try and maybe streamline it and make it a better approach. And in addition, we looked at the sign ordinance. We've gone a second reading on it. There'll probably be a third, and then that will come to council to be reviewed. For the most part, what we're really attempting to try and do in the sign ordinance is to make sure we're in compliance with freedom of speech and not trying to prevent any kind of thing that would trigger a potential, discrimination suit or some kind of that nature, but also looking at addressing a lot of the things that have come up related to temporary signs, banners, feather banners, a lot of those things. So that'll be coming to us also. I was on Fire Board, had a special meeting last week to vote upon the fire personnel contract, which was passed unanimously. We also adopted the strategic plan. Although it has somewhat of a budget in it and some things, it is a living document, just like ours is, and hopefully that will help kind of give some direction related to how we will move forward. I encourage you all to look. It should be attached to the agenda on the Saline Fire Department's website, so you can look at that, and if you want to see kind of what's being proposed and how that will approach as the authority moves forward, we will be hopefully accomplishing that. Last thing I would like to say, appreciate everyone that showed up for our June celebration for the Saline Area Historical Society at the depot. We had probably about 25 to 50 people show up. People were able to ride on the velocipede. It was such a beautiful day. It wasn't super hot. And we appreciate being able to celebrate our 200th anniversary of being settled as a Saline community, and then also 250 years as a nation and celebrating the Declaration of Independence.
Very good. Councilmember Rice?
My only update, I guess, is a request to Mr. Atkin and Mr. Swallow to set a policy committee meeting ASAP to address some of the things that I emailed about previously, but also looking at bylaws to boards and commissions and other issues that have popped up over the last couple of weeks. So if you all could maybe put out some sort of a survey for Mr. Hausch, Councilmember Hausch, Councilmember Dillon, and I to get something going. Otherwise, my meetings are next week. I did have a question for Mr. Hausch, however, and I've been out of town, so I could have missed it. Do you have any sort of a map or layout for Jazz at the Mansion, where people should park, where they should enter, things like that, that I can point people to so that people aren't just like circling the block trying to figure out what the heck to do?
I do not have, I know we included a lot of that on the initial like special event application. We'll meet this Thursday. I know we're planning on having signage and like actual people sort of directing the flow at various sort of bottlenecks, for lack of a better word, within the venue. But I can know more and email out after the meeting Thursday.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Just as someone who has sat on the Summerfest committee for a while, having a map that people can just be like, oh, I am supposed to park here, I am supposed to walk in this entrance is really helpful. I don't know if you guys can whip that up in time, but just something to think about.
If I may, Mr. Swallow, obviously people can park here at the City Hall lot. They're free to park at the Assemblies of God Church on Old Creek. What other locations were secured for public parking for the event?
So also we are able to utilize the CVS lot for those, especially trying to limit that hopefully to those that, may need to be closer. There's also handicap parking on, looking at, just the south of the property there.
CVS lot, the grass or the grass, just
around Dairy Queen. Yep.
And then the school.
Liberty?
Pleasant
Ridge, excuse me. Pleasant Ridge, okay.
Yeah, I think a map, something quick you can, I mean, it doesn't have to have a lot of labels, just the streets and stars.
We can do that. I would also strongly recommend for people like myself, if you're anywhere within the core of the community, it'd probably be best to walk.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's hopefully a beautiful day.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I also wanted to confirm that the event is outside, so there will be no access. There won't be any tours of the mansion, any of that sort of thing.
The house and the carriage house will not be open.
Will not be open, right?
But there will be portage on.
Yeah, the committee will be there talking about our efforts, correct?
Our efforts, but we won't.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get in the home. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Rice. Councilmember Harmount?
So upcoming, we have our Environmental Commission meeting next week, and then for this last Thursday, I was not able to attend the Historic District Commission meeting. Maybe Director Atkins can fill us in on that, but I believe that we approved for the Historic District.
No, there was no approvals.
Okay. So, and then just one other item, I was not sure when the deadline was to submit signatures to run for city council, but maybe.
4 p.m. next Tuesday.
Okay, so just for community members, that we have a couple positions open for city council, as well as, you know, there's elections for mayor. So if you are feeling like you want to put your name in the hat, there's still time to get your signatures in. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
I have one real quick item, and then Mr. Swall, I believe you have a statement you'd like to read. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I had a conversation today with the city attorney, and the main thrust of that conversation I'll address just in just a moment. But he made me aware of a statute that was approved by the legislature, signed into law by the governor this past June, which will likely supersede, language in our city charter that now requires elected officials in village, township, and city to take office on December 1. So I asked him to clarify and issue a formal opinion that would be disseminated through the city manager's office. But if his interpretation is indeed correct, that would supersede our longstanding standard and require council members to be sworn in and begin serving December 1 as opposed to January 1. Okay. Mr. Swall, the floor is yours.
Just before I read my statement, I'd also like to look at, is there any discussion you want to have on the social district expansion?
Yeah, we can do the social district space first. So do you have, there's been obviously some talk about trying to expand, and I think you have some experience and history of working with larger social districts in terms of scope and topography than what we have here in Saline. I think there was a desire specifically to include Dan's. Do you have any insights that you'd like to provide, and maybe there could be a proposal forthcoming at one of our upcoming meetings?
The agenda packet did include the 3 required items for if the city wanted to expand or change the social district. There's of course the cover resolution as required, showing formal action by city council. I also included a map, and I guess I would ask council to take a close look at that to see what areas that you may, agree with or maybe disagree with before we bring that back, so that we can adopt that hopefully as one item. And then finally, there's a management and maintenance plan that's required as part of the part of any social district. So just updates to that have occurred over the last several years, as well as how to deal with the proposed expansion areas. So encourage any comments you may have now or at a future date, so that when we bring this back, it's we don't have a lot of discussion.
Yeah, this will be enumerated at our subsequent meeting, but it will provide an opportunity for each of you to offer some initial feedback. Councilmember Harmount, any initial reaction to the proposal or the various options?
I just wanted to make sure that we had our legal counsel review what we have proposed for expansion.
So I think the one concern there was the previous change of whether it could cross a state highway or not. So basically, the legal counsel has received documents, but also have talked to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, specific staff persons there that deals with social districts, and they've indicated that, yes, it can cross that. The rule is that there's no consumption of alcohol in a state highway.
It sounds like we have a lot of rules and regulations and rights for local business owners. If they don't want to allow the alcohol into their businesses, they have a right to deny that, right?
Right.
Councilmember Rice?
I'm ecstatic.
Okay. Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Now that our city manager's clarified that the state's saying consumption and not possession is, allowed, we just need to worry about people drinking as they walk across the street. But at this point, I'm glad that's finally been determined. And as long as we have an individual from Lara that identified that and willing to testify to that, I'm good for it.
Okay. Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to see something in writing from both the attorneys and from Laura, just so we've got sort of a cover our backside on this. Just because, if you recall, we were sternly told not to do it, and that there were some issues with it. It would be easier to understand if you could provide the management and maintenance plan. Has anything changed to that document?
Yes, so obviously dealing with the proposed expansion area, there are different rules for those areas.
Okay, can you provide a red line as to what we had before? And then the other thing is, when I look at the map, just trying to understand right now, the common area expansion of it's encompassing the potential green space, which I would not feel comfortable including at this time until that space is actually fully built out and understand its use. And it still shows the entrance to Max as a special events only, that alleyway entrance to Max. So I'm not sure how you go out of a social district to get a drink to come back in. It's a weird technicality, but we talked about that for some reason that little alleyway was not included.
So one of the things that I have to take a look at is the sidewalk cafe permit that Max has with the state. So that is an area that may be included as part of their liquor license, so they can't overlap. So we have to explore that and determine that.
Okay, and then just for clarification, so what you're not showing on this map is crossing Michigan Avenue. Because you're still showing boundaries, so how are we doing that?
So the commons area is where it's authorized to consume alcohol, obviously, and so they cannot consume alcohol in the Michigan Avenue right away.
Right, but it's saying that that's a boundary social district. So, I mean, you're allowed to, it seems awkward, like how do you cross the road and can you only cross at one point?
So, to be honest, we do need to, social district and commons area are two different definitions within the rules. And so we do actually have to revise that boundary. The boundary would actually encompass the entire area.
Right, that's what I guess I'm trying to understand,
So
because there's still a clear
so
line.
the commons area, would not have that dotted line.
Right, okay.
I wonder if you could do like encompass that area, but across Michigan Avenue, designate like no drinking somehow within the map. Like it's still blue, but it's got slash marks through it or something.
Or definitions for those specific.
Yeah.
Anything else, Councilmember Dillon?
No, at this point, no. I'm looking forward to making this happen. I just want to make sure that we cross all the Ts, dot all the Is, and make sure we don't have an issue once we get it established.
Great. Councilmember DeLarco, any thoughts?
I'm glad that we can now include Dan's Downtown Tavern as part of our social district. I've always felt that it was exclusionary to not have him as part of it, and this now legal review allows us to do that, and it's parity that I was looking for.
Very good. Councilmember Halsh?
I'm also super excited. The thing that I would just stress is making sure we have adequate signage. And obviously, enforcement is a little bit easier doing some of the special events for, making sure we don't consume or I would love for us to just not even cross, but I get it. So yeah, my suggestion would be making sure that the signage is clear, easy to see, and that people really have no excuse to consume while crossing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Swallow, would you like to proceed?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council, as well as the Saline community. I have some difficult news I need to deliver tonight, but after long consideration and difficult deliberation, I've decided to resign my position as city manager effective August 21st, 2026. This decision has not come lightly. The primary factor is my need to address several significant family responsibilities. I've recently assumed greater role in the care of my mother, as well as the need to relocate to help coordinate her care. In addition, following the passing of my father, my family has asked me to assist with settling his estate, including management and sale of assets. Together, these responsibilities require substantial time, travel, and attention, and making it increasingly difficult for me to maintain the level of commitment and availability that the city manager position demands. I'm also pursuing other opportunities that more clearly align with my longstanding passion for community planning and economic development in these areas, which I have found great success and professional fulfillment. I look forward to dedicating more of my time and energy to those pursuits in the future. Despite my short tenure, I am proud of the progress we've made together. We've advanced several important initiatives, including, as we mentioned, the Downtown Square project moving forward, near completion of the wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation, organizational focus on infrastructure investment and asset management, which we talked about a lot this evening. Additionally, with the implementation of updated budget structure and stronger alignment with long-term capital and planning needs, we've established a solid framework which I think will serve the city for years to come. So I sincerely am grateful to the City Council for the opportunity to serve the Saline community and its residents. While I'm disappointed that the circumstances will not allow me to continue my service for a longer period, I remain confident in the future of the community and direction which it is which is headed. So thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, and I know that was a difficult decision, and we do greatly appreciate your tenure and leadership of this. It's almost been a year since early September 2025, and we of course look forward to working with you over this next month and a half to close out projects between now and when you depart on the 21st. We'll have a more focused discussion on this issue at our subsequent meeting on the 20th. However, in the interim, I did have a brief conversation with the city attorney and with Councilmember Dillon. Let me start with Councilmember Dillon. As council is aware and as the community is hopefully aware, she is our liaison and has taken an active leadership role in the Michigan Municipal League. As most of you are aware, the Michigan Municipal League does offer and maintains a list of individuals who can serve as interim city managers. So unless there's objection from the dais, in her capacity as our liaison to MML, I'm hoping that that you agree to empower her this week to reach out, to develop or to obtain a list of names and some additional background information and share that at our subsequent meeting on July the 20th. Is there any objection to that? No? Okay. And then per the recommendation of our city attorney, Mr. Clark, he would suggest and believes it would be very advantageous to set up a transition team, albeit smaller than what we've done in the past, consisting of himself and 2 council members to meet weekly with Mr. Swallow to make sure that things are progressing and that projects and assignments are passed off to the appropriate staff members and that his colleagues are debriefed on the important initiatives that we are pursuing. I'm happy to do that, although I have a lot on my plate. I would recommend, because of our previous service in this capacity, Councilmember Dillon for that position. But if there's anybody else on the dais who feels like they have a skill set and the time to do that, I would welcome a volunteer, noting, of course, that most of those meetings will likely transpire during the normal workday.
That counts me out.
Yeah. That's fine.
Can I offer, if nobody else wants to do it, then I think a formal motion here would be appropriate. I would like to offer then a motion from the floor to establish a small transition team effective immediately to meet weekly with the city manager to manage the transition and the handoff of important projects and initiatives, and to have that team consist of myself, Councilmember Dillon, and the city attorney, John Clark.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? Janet, thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Okay, is there any other questions or comments this evening? Again, we'll have a more focused discussion on this matter in 1 week's time on July the 20th. Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Swallow for his transparency and for working and doing your due diligence in this community. I think as a member of this council that I'm going to encourage the rest of my council colleagues to support decisions like this and understand that our city staff, especially the directors, especially the city manager, do also have personal lives, and it takes a lot of energy to be in any of those positions. So let's make sure we have kindness and grace over the next month and a half that we have with Mr. Swallow, but also at least the next 6 months or so while we have an interim city manager, and understanding we have a lot of change in this city. We have lost a wonderful city engineer. We have a brand new DBW director who came in guns a-blazing, so you're doing great, so I appreciate that. But let's be sure that we're mindful of our priorities, our duties as city councilors, what our focus areas should be, and do all of that with kindness and grace.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing further, we are going to transition to the final public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time to make comment to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Those wishing to speak are requested, but of course not required to state their name and address for the record. Please note, City Council will not answer questions during this final public comment period. Are there any citizen comments? Would defer to the city clerk. Were there any written comments provided in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks shared at this time?
Yes, sir.
Easy enough. Then the chair would be delighted. That clock is very different than my phone. I've got that clock is 2 minutes fast. So I'm going to go with my phone. Is there a motion to adjourn at 9:37 p.m.? Moved by Dillon. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Del Orco. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. See you next week.